Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 1 of our story. If you like this what if story and want to see part 2, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by 𝐶𝐻𝐼𝐿123367 on Wattpad. Now let's start. After Izuku was beaten by Bakugo and his gang, he retreated to the forest, seeking solace away from those who made his life unbearable. He pondered why he had never wished to be quirkless, feeling it was not his fault. Why couldn't they treat him like a person instead of a punching bag or someone deemed useless? Finding a nice tree, he sat down in front of it, pulled out his homework, and played some music, trying to drown out the negativity. Unbeknownst to him, a baby raptor and its mother were observing him as he worked and sang along to his music. Suddenly, a roar echoed nearby, startling Izuku. He turned to see the baby raptor and its mother watching him intently. He remained still, locking eyes with the mother raptor. In that moment, she sensed something in Izuku that inspired trust. The mother raptor gently picked up her young one and placed it in Izuku's arms before darting away. Confused yet intrigued, Izuku felt a connection with the baby raptor until the sound of gunshots shattered the moment. Realizing the danger, Izuku quickly stowed his homework in his backpack and cradled the baby raptor, climbing the tree to hide. He overheard men discussing their hunt, confirming his fears about the mother raptor. They waited quietly for about 30 minutes until the men finally left. Carefully, Izuku descended the tree, ensuring he and the baby raptor remained unharmed. Once on the ground, Izuku set the baby raptor down and extended his hand, mimicking a gesture he had seen in a movie. The baby raptor sniffed his hand and then nestled its head against it. Izuku decided that the little creature would stay with him, but they needed to be cautious. As they walked, he contemplated a name for the baby raptor. After a while, he settled on forest, inspired by its green coloration reminiscent of grass and leaves. Continuing their journey, they stumbled upon a warehouse. Izuku suggested they explore it, with forest trailing closely behind. Inside, they discovered vast spaces that could accommodate various dinosaurs. Izuku realized they had found a potential refuge for all the dinosaurs but decided that forest would stay with him for now. They exited the warehouse and made their way to the edge of the woods. Izuku carefully placed forest in his backpack, ensuring there was enough space for it to breathe. As he walked through the streets, Izuku researched what raptors ate and how to train them. He knew he needed to hide forest well since the next day was crucial. Arriving home, he was greeted by his mother, who had prepared dinner before leaving for work. After a quick meal, Izuku released Forest from his backpack and began training the baby raptor. They practiced various commands, and Izuku made a list of what Forest would need for their next visit to the warehouse. After several hours of training, they took a break to eat and then settled down for the night after a bath. Izuku wondered about the possibilities of training dinosaurs for UA and what the warehouse might look like on a larger scale. The next morning, he was awakened by Forest nudging him. He instructed the baby raptor to hide quietly while he got ready for school. Once dressed, Izuku reminded Forest to stay hidden until he called for it. He left the house, heading to middle school after ensuring Forest was fed. At school, he ignored the usual taunts and focused on his work. In class, he began sketching Forest in his notebook, unaware that Bakugo and his gang had noticed him. Bakugo approached, curious about what Izuku was drawing. When he snatched the notebook, he was surprised to find it contained something different from the typical hero notes. Izuku quickly reclaimed his notebook, surprising everyone by not referring to Bakugo as 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 as he usually did. Bakugo, taken aback, demanded to know what had changed. Izuku simply stated that he had called him Bakugo, as that was his last name. The teacher, recovering from the shock, instructed the class to settle down and proceed with the lesson. To Izuku's surprise, Bakugo and his gang did not bully him that day, making it an unusually peaceful experience. When school was over, Izuku walked out of the classroom and left the building, heading home. He felt as though someone was watching him, so he turned around but saw nothing. He continued walking until someone covered his mouth and whispered a threat, warning him that any movement or noise would lead to dire consequences. Izuku remained calm and discreetly pressed a button to alert 𝐬𝐻 that he was in danger. 𝐬𝐻, sensing the urgency, leaped through the window and quickly moved through the shadows, tracking Izuku by scent. Izuku felt a surge of fear until a pro-hero approached them, underground hero 𝐬𝐻𝗱. He commanded the villain to release Izuku, who was being held tightly by the throat, struggling to breathe. The tension hung in the air until a loud roar echoed nearby. Izuku recognized it immediately. It was 𝐬𝐻. As the villain prepared to stab Izuku, 𝐬𝐻 lunged at him, knocking him off balance. Izuku fell to the ground, clutching his throat. 𝐬𝐻 rushed to his side, noticing the red mark left by the villain's grip. Izawa, the pro-hero, and the villain were taken aback by the sight of the raptor. 𝐬𝐻𝗱 approached cautiously, asking if Izuku was all right. 𝐬𝐻 growled protectively at him, prompting 𝐬𝐻𝗱 to halt his advance. Izuku reassured 𝐬𝐻 that he was fine and urged him to return home. 𝐬𝐻𝗱 restrained the villain with his scarf and moved closer to Izuku, who suddenly fainted. Alarmed, 𝐬𝐻𝗱 picked up Izuku and carried him to the police station, dragging the villain along, and then headed to the hospital. When Izuku regained consciousness in the hospital, panic set in. He looked to his left and saw 𝐬𝐻𝗱 sleeping in a bag. As he touched his neck, he felt the bandages wrapped around it and decided to investigate further. He removed the cords connected to him and headed toward the bathroom. 𝐬𝐻𝗱 woke up to find Izuku missing from the bed and quickly got out of his sleeping bag. In the bathroom, Izuku removed the bandages and noticed the angry red mark on his neck. He screamed, startling 𝐬𝐻𝗱, who rushed in to check on him. Izuku, frightened, told 𝐬𝐻𝗱 to stay back, and he complied. Izuku stepped out of the bathroom, and 𝐬𝐻𝗱 followed closely to ensure his safety. Determined to leave the hospital, Izuku ignored the nurses and doctors trying to stop him and made his way home. 𝐬𝐻𝗱 needed to return to you, while Izuku grabbed 𝐬𝐻, who was hiding from his mother, changed clothes, and ventured into the forest. There, he encountered a baby brontosaurus, which he decided to name Bronto, and allowed it to follow him to the warehouse. Izuku, 𝐬𝐻, and Bronto trained diligently to improve their skills for you. Despite the red mark on his neck, Izuku continued to hide it. When his phone rang, he knew he had to return home, but first, he concealed Bronto from sight, allowing him to come out only when called. Upon arriving home, Izuku entered through the front door to find 𝐬𝐻𝗱, 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and two other pro-heroes waiting for him. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 expressed her relief at seeing him, and Izuku nodded, taking off his shoes and jacket. 𝐬𝐻𝗱 greeted him, and Izuku looked at his scarf, feeling a bit confused. They had come to ask him something important. Just then, Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 jumped out from behind 𝐬𝐻𝗱, startling Izuku, who bumped his head and cried out in surprise. The adults rushed to his side, but their attention was diverted by 𝐬𝐻, who growled protectively. Izuku called out to 𝐬𝐻, who ignored the others and approached him. Izuku requested 𝐬𝐻 to fetch some supplies for his head and neck, and 𝐬𝐻 nodded before dashing upstairs to gather what was needed. The adults were astonished to see a raptor responding to Izuku's commands. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 asked about the baby raptor, and Izuku explained that he had saved 𝐬𝐻 from danger the previous day. When 𝐬𝐻 returned with bandages and cream, one of the heroes attempted to help but was interrupted as 𝐬𝐻 expertly wrapped the bandages around Izuku's head while he applied cream to his neck. Izuku recounted the events that had transpired, expressing his longing to attend you without a quirk and sharing the story of Bronto and their training. As Izuku began to feel tired, he fell asleep with 𝐬𝐻 nestled in his arms. The heroes discussed their next steps, nodding in agreement. Izuku awoke to 𝐬𝐻 nudging him, reminding him that he had no school but needed to return to the warehouse where Bronto was waiting. He got out of bed, dressed in a black shirt and breathes, and made his way to the bathroom to change. Afterward, he emptied his backpack onto the floor and took 𝐬𝐻 downstairs for breakfast. In the kitchen, Izuku noticed 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 talking to Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐦𝐻 and 𝐬𝐻𝗱. Ignoring them, he began preparing food for himself and the others. 𝐬𝐻 stayed close, ready to protect Izuku if needed. Once the meal was ready, Izuku carried it on a tray to his mother and the two heroes. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 thanked him and greeted 𝐬𝐻, who received a gentle pat on the head. Izuku explained that they planned to eat before heading to train with Bronto. He kissed his mother's forehead and returned to the kitchen to feed Forest some chicken. Izuku and Forest finished their meal and headed back upstairs. Izuku grabbed his backpack, carefully placing Forest inside before zipping it up just enough for her to breathe. He then made his way downstairs, passing by Inko, Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿, and Eraserhead. To his surprise, Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 climbed onto his back, prompting a shocked reaction from Izuku and Eraserhead. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 asked if he and Eraserhead could join Izuku, to which he nodded before stepping out the door. Eraserhead followed closely behind, ready to catch Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 if he lost his balance. As they walked through the bustling streets, a pro-hero observed them but showed little concern for Izuku's well-being. They passed a playground and headed straight into the woods, making their way to an old warehouse. Once they were far enough away, Izuku let Forest out of the backpack, and she joyfully ran around him before they continued toward the warehouse. After an hour of walking, they finally arrived, but Forest suddenly stopped and ran in a different direction. Noticing this, Izuku chased after her, with Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 clinging to his back and Eraserhead sprinting behind them. Forest led them to a cage containing a dinosaur. Izuku reached the spot with Eraserhead close behind. He quickly set down his backpack, pulled out a chicken leg, and offered it to the dinosaur, which eagerly accepted the food. While the dinosaur ate, Izuku worked on opening the cage using some rope and rocks. Once freed, the dinosaur stepped out and regarded Izuku curiously. He noticed that it resembled Forest but was smaller and covered in feathers. The dinosaur approached him and nuzzled against him, but their moment was interrupted by a noise. Izuku quickly picked up his backpack, placing both Forest and the dinosaur inside, and took off running with Eraserhead and Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 following closely. Upon returning to the warehouse, Izuku released Forest and the dinosaur, calling out to the new creature, whom he named Bronto. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 and Eraserhead heard the sound of heavy footsteps and saw the baby long-necked dinosaur rushing toward Izuku, who greeted it with affection and offered it some leaves to eat. Izuku expressed his intention to keep the dinosaurs he saved in the warehouse, while Forest and Bronto began to play together. Eraserhead then asked Izuku if he could assist him in training for UA and help him manage his dinosaurs more easily. Izuku's face lit up with happiness as he nodded in agreement. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 playfully tapped Izuku's face, causing him to flinch slightly. Noticing his reaction, both Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 and Eraserhead exchanged worried glances. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 gently inquired about Izuku's past, prompting him to share his struggles with being quirkless since he was 4 years old. He recounted how his friendship with Bakugo changed when Bakugo discovered his lack of a quirk, leading to bullying from peers and indifference from adults and pro-heroes. Eraserhead and Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 felt a mix of sadness and anger towards those who had mistreated Izuku. They embraced him tightly, trying to provide comfort. After a moment, they released him and began discussing training. Izuku learned that the dinosaur he had rescued was a 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, which he named 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. They trained until it was time to leave, with Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 and Eraserhead accompanying Izuku back home. Inside the house, Forest and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 remained still in Izuku's backpack to avoid drawing attention. They stopped by a store to buy more meat for the dinosaurs before returning home. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 noticed some children staring at them in surprise, but Izuku ignored them and continued on. Once inside, he let Forest and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 out and headed to the kitchen with Forest and Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 perched on his shoulder. Izuku prepared tea and coffee for Eraserhead and mint tea for Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿, while also feeding 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Forest 2 chickens. After placing the drinks down, he turned on the TV to play a movie for everyone to enjoy. As Izuku settled down, he accidentally fell asleep on Eraserhead's shoulder. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 found a spot between 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Forest and dozed off as well. Inko returned from work and noticed the three asleep. She quietly went upstairs and returned with a large blanket to cover them before heading to her own room. When Izuku woke up, he found himself covered with a blanket, with Forest and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 sleeping beside him. On his other side were Eraserhead and Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿. Realizing they had all fallen asleep while watching TV, he got up and headed to the kitchen to prepare food and drinks. Forest and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 followed him, nudging his leg for attention. Understanding their request, Izuku bent down to pet their heads before grabbing 2 large pieces of beef from the refrigerator and placing them in a bowl by the kitchen door. He then returned to serve drinks and food to the sleeping Eraserhead and Principal 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 came downstairs to see Izuku enjoying his meal while Eraserhead and Principal 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 remained asleep. Suddenly, Eraserhead's phone rang, waking him up. He picked up the cup of coffee Izuku had made and answered the call. Midnight's voice came through, requesting assistance because a dinosaur and her baby had arrived, seemingly searching for someone. Eraserhead dropped his phone in surprise and turned to look at Izuku. Eraserhead picked up his phone, determined to bring someone along. He believed he knew who they were looking for. Midnight instructed him to meet at UA, as the individual was located in one of the training grounds. After hanging up, Eraserhead picked up Principal 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 and wrapped him in his scarf. He informed 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 that he needed Izuku for the task. Izuku exchanged a glance with Eraserhead and sensed that a dinosaur was at UA. He hurried upstairs to change into shorts and a shirt, then dashed back down, grabbing some pieces of meat just in case. He also took a wagon for 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 to ride in. Once ready, Izuku announced his preparedness, and Eraserhead nodded, opening the front door and leading the way to his car. Izuku pulled the wagon with 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 hidden beneath a cover to keep them out of sight. Eraserhead opened the back seat of the car, urging 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 to hurry inside. Izuku lifted the cover, allowing them to enter before shutting the door. He placed the wagon in the trunk before they both got into the car. Eraserhead explained that they needed to get to UA, as the dinosaurs were in the training ground. Izuku nodded, and Eraserhead started driving. As they approached UA, Izuku glanced back to see 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 peering out the window, then turned to see they were almost there. Principal 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 woke up, poking his head out of the scarf, startling both Izuku and Eraserhead. He asked what was happening, and Eraserhead explained that they were searching for someone in the training ground. Upon arriving at the parking lot, they exited the car. Eraserhead opened the trunk while Izuku grabbed the wagon and opened the back seat, instructing 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 to stay hidden until he said otherwise. They nodded and settled into the wagon, covered for concealment. Eraserhead pulled up the cameras on his phone to check the training ground. Izuku followed closely behind him, with Principal 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 perched on his shoulder. They walked through the hallway, drawing curious looks from the teachers and pro-heroes. All Might recognized Izuku as the quirkless boy from before. They reached the training ground where the 2 dinosaurs were located. Eraserhead confirmed that they were indeed looking for Izuku. He opened the door, and as the other pro-heroes attempted to approach Izuku, he held out his hand. The larger dinosaur stopped in front of him, lowering its head for Izuku to pet. He then called for 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 to come out, and they emerged from the wagon, gazing at the baby dinosaur and its mother. The mother dinosaur stepped back, nudging the baby forward. Izuku assured the baby that it would be safe with him. Just then, a loud roar echoed, followed by the sound of gunfire. Izuku flinched, covering his ears in fear. Noticing his distress, Eraserhead hugged him tightly, reassuring him that everything would be all right. Izuku calmed slightly and decided to name the baby dinosaur 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻. He bent down to offer pieces of meat to 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴, 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Suddenly, a pro-hero with a flaming quirk approached angrily. Endeavor was caught off guard by the growls of 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 as they moved toward him. Eraserhead quickly used his quirk to extinguish Endeavor's flames. Principal 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 explained that Izuku had experienced trauma related to loud noises and fire, urging Endeavor to back off. Shocked, Endeavor retreated and extinguished his quirk. Izuku looked up to see that the fire was gone, feeling a bit more at ease. Just as he began to speak, a baby �triceratops appeared, followed closely by its mother, who looked distressed. Izuku rushed toward them, with 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻, 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 trailing behind. He noticed the mother was engaged in a struggle and quickly decided to take care of the baby. He reassured the mother that the baby would be safe with him and urged her to hurry away before danger arrived. As the mother nodded and fled the training ground, Izuku flinched at the sounds of chaos but focused on the baby �triceratops. Principal 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 climbed onto Izuku's shoulder just as the door burst open. Izuku turned to see All Might approaching with his usual smile, which startled him. He quickly ran away from the entrance, with Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻 on his shoulder and the baby dinosaurs following him to a hideout he had discovered. Eraserhead turned toward All Might, anger radiating from him as he used his quirk. The other pro-heroes attempted to intervene, but Eraserhead glared at them with an intensity that made them hesitate. He confronted All Might, expressing his frustration over the emotional toll Izuku had endured due to All Might's past actions. He emphasized that Izuku had become emotionless until he met Eraserhead, Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻, and their friends. He declared that they would prove All Might wrong about Izuku's potential as a hero. After releasing All Might, Eraserhead rushed after Izuku and Principal 𝐀𝐻 to their hiding spot. Upon arriving, he found Izuku surrounded by the baby dinosaurs, all huddled together in an attempt to comfort him. After 30 minutes, Eraserhead entered to find Izuku asleep, his cheeks stained with dry tears. He asked if Izuku was okay, and Principal 𝐀𝐻 nodded. They discussed the need to keep Izuku away from certain influences, including All Might. Eraserhead suggested that they train Izuku as their own student, alongside one hero he admired, to help him grow and heal. Principal 𝐀𝐻 considered the idea and agreed. Eraserhead and Principal 𝐀𝐻 were discussing matters when Izuku woke up and noticed the new baby Triceratops. He thought about a name for her and decided to call her Napoleon. Principal 𝐀𝐻 and Eraserhead nodded in agreement. Eraserhead then asked Izuku which pro-heroes he wanted to train with. Izuku replied that he wanted to train with Hawks, Ryukyu, and them. Eraserhead and Principal 𝐀𝐻 nodded and stayed with Izuku for a couple of hours. Izuku was awakened by 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐸, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and Forest, with 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 behind them holding a bucket of cold water, ready to splash him if he didn't wake up. He quickly got up and acknowledged 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, who informed him that she needed him to gather some things for the dinosaurs since Principal 𝐀𝐻 had given her a job working with Recovery Girl. They had also acquired a house near UA, making the commute easier. Shocked but compliant, Izuku nodded and went to his closet to grab a pair of gray shorts and a black shirt. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐸, Forest, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 left with her as Izuku put on his clothes and exited his room with his backpack. As he walked downstairs, he saw Hawks, Ryukyu, and Eraserhead on the sofa. Eraserhead greeted him while 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 rested his head on Eraserhead's lap. Izuku nodded and headed to the kitchen to prepare coffee and tea for them. Eraserhead thanked him as he took the coffee, while 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Ryukyu received the tea. After grabbing his hoodie, Izuku opened the door, but 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐸 and Forest tried to follow him. He told them they couldn't come along today, sensing that something might happen. He assured them he would call for help if needed. 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐸 and Forest nodded and returned to where 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Eraserhead, Hawks, and Ryukyu were. Izuku announced that he was leaving for the store and closed the door behind him as he walked away. As he made his way to the store, other pro-heroes noticed him but chose not to say anything, knowing he might get scared. Upon entering the store, Izuku felt an unsettling sensation but dismissed it as nothing. He headed to the food aisle, selecting meat for himself and fruits for Bronto and Napoleon. He also gathered some items for 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 since they would be moving soon. Just as he finished, a hand suddenly covered his mouth, and he felt a gun pressed against his head. The surrounding shoppers noticed the situation and rushed to find help from the pro-heroes. Izuku discreetly activated the button on his lapel, signaling that he was in trouble. Forest, 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐸, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 sensed the urgency and dashed toward Izuku's room, with Eraserhead, Ryukyu, and Hawks following closely behind. The three dinosaurs leaped out of a window, and Eraserhead realized that Izuku was in danger. Eraserhead instructed Hawks and Ryukyu to join him as they rushed toward the store. Ryukyu transformed into her dragon form, and Hawks picked up Eraserhead as they soared through the sky. Other heroes arrived at the scene, surrounding Izuku and the villain. Endeavor shouted for the villain to release the kid. Izuku trembled at the commotion, and the heroes noticed his distress. 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐸 tried to reassure him, but he remained unresponsive. Eraserhead, Hawks, and Ryukyu arrived just in time to see the villain holding Izuku tightly, a gun at his head. The villain brandished a needle filled with a mysterious liquid, threatening to use it if the heroes approached. The heroes hesitated, concerned for Izuku's safety. Suddenly, roars echoed around them, and 𝐴𝐴, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and 𝐻𝐻𝐼 appeared, looking fierce as they confronted the villain. Izuku struggled to break free, but the villain tightened his grip and injected the liquid into Izuku's neck, causing him to faint. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, 𝐻𝐻𝐼, and 𝐴𝐴 reacted instinctively, attacking the villain's legs, forcing him to stumble. Izuku began to regain consciousness, feeling pain throughout his body. He called out for his friends, who rushed to his side, growling protectively at the approaching pro-heroes. Eraserhead, Hawks, and Ryukyu urged the dinosaurs to return home, promising to take Izuku to the hospital. Reluctantly, 𝐻𝐻𝐼, 𝐴𝐴, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 dashed back to Izuku's house through the window, lying on his bed and missing him. Hawks lifted Izuku and flew toward the hospital, with Eraserhead following on Ryukyu's back. Upon arrival, the doctors quickly took Izuku into a room for examination. Eraserhead called Principal 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐻𝐽𝐻 and 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 to inform them of the situation. They arrived at the hospital, anxiously waiting for news about Izuku and the substance the villain had injected. After 3 hours, the doctor emerged from Izuku's room. Eraserhead immediately inquired about Izuku's condition. The doctor replied that it was both good and bad, leaving everyone confused. He instructed them to follow him to Izuku's room and warned them that they would see a girl inside. The doctor explained that during the examination, Izuku's physical form had changed, and he would no longer have male characteristics but rather female ones, including a WMB. The group was left in shock as they entered Izuku's room, waiting for her to wake up. Ryukyu was discussing various topics with 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 about girls' things related to Izuku when they noticed Izuku beginning to wake up. As Izuku opened her eyes to the bright lights, she got out of bed and headed to the bathroom, unaware that 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Eraserhead, Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐼, Hawks, and Ryukyu were in the room with her. Hawks remarked that everyone except him and Izuku nodded in agreement. In the bathroom, Izuku splashed water on her face and glanced in the mirror, realizing she had transformed into a girl, which startled her. Izuku cried out, prompting 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Ryukyu to rush into the bathroom. Izuku, in tears and trying to hide her face, exclaimed her confusion about what had happened to her. Ryukyu explained that a villain had injected her with a liquid that would permanently change her into a girl. This revelation made Izuku tremble with fear. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 comforted her with soothing words, and they returned to the bed where they shared what the doctor had said, causing Izuku to blush. Eraserhead pointed out that Izuku would need to change her name since it was traditionally a boy's name. Izuku nodded and an idea struck her. She suggested the name Izuka, which everyone agreed upon. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐼 announced he would inform the doctor of the change before leaving the room. Izuka, 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and Ryukyu began teaching Izuka everything she needed to know about being a girl when they heard a tapping at the window. Izuka and everyone except Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐼 turned to see a baby pteranodon and its mother tapping at the glass. Izuka eagerly opened the window, allowing the baby pteranodon to enter while the mother flew away. As the door began to open, Izuka quickly hid the baby pteranodon under the bed just as the doctor and Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐼 returned. The doctor, holding paperwork that Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐼 had already completed, informed Izuka that she was free to go, advising her to be careful. Once the doctor left, Izuka emerged from the bed to retrieve the baby pteranodon. Suddenly, she panicked, realizing she had no clothes. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐼, anticipating the need for a change, produced a bag of clothes from seemingly nowhere and handed it to Izuka. She was astonished but didn't question it. After giving the baby pteranodon to Eraserhead, Izuka hurried to the bathroom to change into girls' shorts, a tank top, and a CRP shirt. When she returned, everyone was engaged in conversation, and they smiled at her arrival. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 suggested they find a way to hide the baby pteranodon, and Izuka had an idea to help it escape. She opened the window again, ensuring she could see the car outside. Izuka excitedly shared her plan with Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐼, who approached her to hear it. Izuka instructed everyone to help her get the baby pteranodon over to the car. With enthusiasm, she extended her arm, allowing the baby pteranodon to fly and land on her arm, while Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐼 climbed onto its back. Izuka encouraged them to fly toward UA, assuring them that Hawks would follow closely behind in case of any mishaps. The rest of the group left the hospital and got into the car, following the baby pteranodon and Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿. Upon arriving at UA, they heard distant dinosaur roars. Izuku dashed toward the sound, with Ryukyu trailing behind her. They discovered 3 baby dinosaurs near their deceased mother, a baby Parasaurolophus, a Stegosaurus, and a T-Rex that resembled Forrest but was slightly larger. Izuku carefully picked them up, urging them to leave before anyone else arrived. They returned to UA and headed to Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿's office. Ryukyu knocked on the door, and they heard a faint invitation to enter. As Izuku opened the door, she narrowly dodged a red feather and glanced at Hawks. Eraserhead, Hawks, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 were surprised to see Izuku and Ryukyu return with the baby dinosaurs. Sensing their fear, Izuku knelt down to comfort them as the baby pteranodon landed on her arm. Izuku expressed her need to return home before her other pets became worried. However, Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 assured her that she had a new home on campus where they could help her train the dinosaurs. Izuku nodded but felt anxious about how to bring them along. She mentioned needing to get her other pets, but Eraserhead intervened, using his capture scarf to gently restrain her. Hawks pointed out that Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 hadn't finished speaking. While Izuku was asleep, Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 had asked Ryukyu and Hawks to retrieve her pets, which were now at a new area designated for their safety. Izuku was taken aback by the news. She looked at the baby dinosaurs and decided to name them Python, Rexy, Wheezy, and Liz. 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 approved of the names, and Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 explained that Eraserhead would show Izuku where her new house was and provide her with a key for UA. Eraserhead led the way, with Ryukyu, Hawks, Izuku, and 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 following him. Upon arriving at the house, Eraserhead revealed it was a large residence. Izuku exclaimed in surprise at its size, realizing it was more than just a simple house. Entered, Izuku heard running footsteps and soon saw 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Forrest, 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿, Bronto, and Napoleon rushing toward her. She called out in surprise, but before she could react, they jumped onto her, causing her to fall backward. Izuku noticed that her friends Python, Rexy, Wheezy, and Liz seemed excited to meet her. As they hid behind her, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 approached Rexy and nuzzled her affectionately. 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 suggested that Izuku choose her first room, and Izuku eagerly agreed, rushing upstairs with 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Forrest, 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿, Bronto, Napoleon, Python, Rexy, Wheezy, and Liz following closely behind. Izuku discovered a spacious room and decided it would be perfect for her, especially knowing that her baby dinosaur would eventually join her. She noticed some boxes containing her old belongings but chose to keep only a few pictures of herself and 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿, along with some notebooks for safekeeping. After sorting through the boxes, she carried the unwanted items downstairs and set them by the door. Izuku expressed her need for some additional items and clothes for her room while sitting next to Ryukyu, resting her head on her shoulder. Hawks handed her his card, encouraging her to buy whatever she needed for the house without worrying about the cost. With a smile, Izuku took her computer and purchased clothes and supplies for her room, as well as items for her future dinosaur companions. Once she completed her shopping, she returned the card to Hawks and made her way to the sofa, where Rexy, Forrest, 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 were resting. Exhausted from the day's events, she soon fell asleep. Izuku was awakened by the sound of 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 and Ryukyu chatting. Rubbing her eyes, she got up and headed to her room, with Rexy trailing behind her. After opening the door, she picked out an outfit from her closet and went to the bathroom, leaving Rexy in her room. She filled the tub with warm water and enjoyed a moment of peace until a knock interrupted her. 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿's voice called out, reminding her to come downstairs when she was finished, as Ryukyu wanted her to meet someone. Izuku agreed and quickly dried off, changed into her outfit, and stepped out of the bathroom. Upon exiting, she noticed Rexy curiously sniffing around. Izuku picked her up and headed downstairs, where she found Ryukyu engaged in conversation with someone. As she reached the bottom of the stairs, she placed Rexy down and made her way to the kitchen, grabbing a honey bun to snack on before heading to the living room. Ryukyu introduced her to her son, 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐿, who looked at Izuku with a sense of connection. Ryukyu exchanged a knowing glance with 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿, who gave a thumbs up in response. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐿 approached Izuku and lifted her up, declaring that she was now his. While hugging her, he gazed into her eyes with a smile. Confused, Izuku looked to Ryukyu for clarification. Ryukyu explained that Rei had chosen her as his lifelong partner, which left Izuku stunned. However, she smiled back at Rui and nodded in agreement. Just then, Rui noticed the gathering of dinosaurs watching them curiously. Rui asked Izuku what her quirk was, and she sadly admitted that she didn't have one. His expression shifted to shock, but he quickly reassured her that not having a quirk didn't mean she couldn't be a hero. He promised to help her train, and together they could achieve great things. Izuku felt a wave of relief and happiness, hugging Rui tightly as he comforted her. Hawks then suggested they start training with the dinosaurs. Izuku nodded and got up from Rui's lap, leading the way to the training ground with Rui, Ryukyu, Eraserhead, and Hawks following her. Upon arriving, they found Bronto, Forest, Rexy, Liz, Wheezy, Napoleon, Python, and 𝐻𝐿𝐿𝐼 enjoying food from the kitchen. Hawks proposed that Izuku work on combat training with Eraserhead while Rui and Ryukyu focused on Rui's dragon form. They all agreed, and Hawks took to the air to begin his training. Izuku and Eraserhead moved to one side of the training ground, while Rui and Ryukyu positioned themselves on the other side, with Hawks training in the center. Their training continued until Hawks received a call from All Might, prompting everyone to pause and gather around him. Answering the call on speakerphone, Hawks learned about a situation at the mall involving a large creature causing chaos. Ryukyu and Rui transformed into their dragon forms, with Eraserhead climbing onto Ryukyu's back as they flew toward the mall. Izuku, along with 𝐻𝐿𝐼, Takshaka, Forest, and Rexy, arrived at the mall to find most people hiding, except for the police and some pro-heroes. As Izuku approached the police, Forest and Rexy began calling for the dinosaurs. The sight of the dinosaurs behind her caught everyone's attention. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed, and two raptors charged toward Izuku. As she stepped forward, a pro-hero named Fat Gum grabbed her, causing the dinosaurs to react. Confusion spread among the pro-heroes until Hawks swooped in, taking Izuku from Fat Gum and placing her in front of the two large raptors. Rexy, 𝐻𝐿𝐼, Forest, and Takshaka followed closely behind. The raptors regarded Izuku and began to call out, revealing two baby raptors, a baby 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, 𝗀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴𝐵𝐵, a Dilophosaurus, and a Spinosaurus nearby. A voice from the crowd shouted in disbelief, and the two large raptors nudged the baby dinosaurs toward Izuku before retreating. Izuku called out for Rui, who landed with a thud nearby. She instructed him to gather the baby dinosaurs and take them home, assuring him she would join them soon. Rui nodded, carefully cradling the baby dinosaurs in his dragon hands before flying back to the house with Ryukyu. The pro-hero approached Izuku and Hawks with an angry expression before anyone could speak. They had heard gunshots and the roars of dinosaurs. Izuku, feeling frightened, ran toward the source of the gunfire. Eraserhead shouted for her to stop, racing after her alongside the other pro-heroes and Hawks. When Izuku reached the scene, she saw two large raptors and several other big dinosaurs lying lifeless on the ground. Overwhelmed by the sight, she began to cry and turned to flee from the gruesome scene. Hawks and Eraserhead pursued her, but just as one of them grabbed her arm, Hawks drew his feather sword while Eraserhead wrapped his capture scarf around Izuku's waist, pulling her away from a shadowy figure that appeared to be furious at their intervention. The figure stepped into the light, revealing himself to be Endeavor, his expression filled with anger. Hawks confronted him, demanding to know what he wanted. Endeavor explained that he only wished to discuss an arranged marriage for his youngest son, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Izuku, frightened, clung tightly to Eraserhead, refusing to let go. Eraserhead asserted that Izuku was already chosen by another, referring to Ryukyu's son, but the other pro-heroes were skeptical. Hawks then instructed them to follow him, taking Izuku away as he flew toward UA, with the other pro-heroes trailing behind. They arrived at UA through an unusual route and found a house situated at the edge of a forest. Fat Gum questioned the presence of the house, to which Hawks replied that they would find out inside. Once they landed, Hawks set Izuku down and opened the door. She rushed inside, searching for Rui, Ryukyu, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, who noticed the distress on her face. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐵 informed her that Rui was in her room with the baby dinosaurs. Without another word, Izuku ran to her room, tears streaming down her cheeks. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Ryukyu stood up, glaring at the pro-heroes, demanding to know what had happened to Izuku. Hawks explained that Izuku had heard gunshots after the baby dinosaurs left with 𝐬𝐬 and had witnessed their parents' tragic fate. He added that 𝐴ndeavor had proposed an arranged marriage for his son, but they had clarified that Izuku was already chosen by 𝐬𝐬. Ryukyu called for 𝐬𝐬 to come downstairs with Izuku, and 𝐬𝐬 soon appeared, carrying Izuku like a princess while she slept, with the baby dinosaurs trailing behind him. Ryukyu introduced 𝐬𝐬 and Izuku to the pro-heroes, shocking them with the revelation of their bond. 𝐬𝐬 glared at 𝐴ndeavor, warning him to stay away from his mate before retreating to Izuku's room with the baby dinosaurs following closely. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, preparing to leave for groceries, told 𝐴ndeavor that he had received his answer. 𝐬𝐬 gently placed Izuku on the bed and arranged the baby dinosaurs around her before lying down himself. As Izuku stirred awake, she looked at the baby dinosaurs and decided to name them Cranberry, Sloth, Elby, Iris, Hawks, Alder, and Redmane, snuggling into 𝐬𝐬's chest. 𝐬𝐬 smiled and kissed her forehead, pleased with her choices, before they both drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Izumi awoke to her alarm and noticed Rin sleeping next to her bed, surrounded by the baby raptors. Startled, she nearly hit Rin with her pillow. When Rin noticed she was awake, he greeted her and asked how she was feeling after the previous day. Izuku realized she had slept all day, causing her to panic and tumble out of bed with a loud thud. 𝐬𝐬 rushed to check on her and found her on the floor, buried under the baby dinosaurs. He asked if she was okay, and she nodded, knowing the dinosaurs would soon join her. 𝐬𝐬 helped her up and asked what time it was, checking his phone to reveal it was 5 a.m. He suggested watching a movie, and Izuku eagerly agreed, choosing 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. 𝐬𝐬 set up the movie and went downstairs to gather snacks, unaware that Ryukyu had just woken up to prepare for her hero duties. He returned with chips, drinks, cookies, and ice cream, placing them in front of Izuku. As they began the movie, the dinosaurs snuggled against them, and they enjoyed their time together. After the movie ended, Izuku's phone rang. She asked 𝐬𝐬 to retrieve it from under her pillow. He complied, answering the call on speakerphone. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 informed them that they needed their help with something and requested they meet him in his office. Izuku agreed, and 𝐬𝐬 suggested they change before heading out, picking up the dinosaurs one by one. Izuku got up when 𝐬𝐬 picked up the cranberries, placing them on the bed with covers around them. Izuku went into the closet and then to the bathroom while 𝐬𝐬 changed in the room. When Izuku emerged from the bathroom, she noticed that both she and 𝐬𝐬 were wearing matching outfits. They decided it was time to leave and walked out of the room, heading into the kitchen where the light was on. 𝐬𝐬 noticed this and instinctively pulled Izuku behind him, cautioning her about the light in the kitchen. Izuku nodded in agreement as they made their way downstairs. In the kitchen, they found 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, who was busy making coffee. Izuku greeted her mother and began preparing some food, placing it in bowls. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 smiled at them, acknowledging their early rise. Izuku explained that they needed to meet someone quickly, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 wished them a good day as she moved to the living room to watch the news. After leaving the house and closing the door, Izuku and 𝐬𝐬 walked to Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴's office at UA. Upon arriving, Izuku knocked on the door and heard a faint invitation to enter. She opened the door and stepped inside with 𝐬𝐬 right behind her. Inside, they saw present Mike, Hawks, 𝐴ndeavor, Eraserhead, Fat Gum, 13, Sir Night Eye, and Midnight. Izuku rushed to hug Eraserhead and greeted everyone. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 welcomed them and expressed gratitude for their presence. He then explained that they needed help, which puzzled Izuku and 𝐬𝐬. When 𝐬𝐬 asked for clarification, Eraserhead revealed that they had discovered an underground lab where dinosaurs were being harmed and experimented on. The revelation caused Izuku to freeze, prompting concern from 𝐬𝐬, Hawks, Eraserhead, and Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴. 𝐬𝐬 approached 𝐴ndeavor, growling protectively, before picking up Izuku. Eraserhead advised that next time, they should let Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, Hawks, and himself handle the situation. He used his quirk to extinguish 𝐴ndeavor's flames, and the other pro-heroes nodded in agreement. Izuku looked at Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, who continued explaining that they needed their expertise with dinosaurs to help free them from cages. Izuku and Rue nodded in understanding. Eraserhead informed them that they would need to drive to the location since flying was not an option due to the dangers in the sky. They all followed him to a black car, as it was nighttime. Hawks mentioned that there were weapons available in the car for Izuku to choose from. Izuku nodded and climbed into the car with Eraserhead, 𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐴, Rue, and Hawks. She spotted various weapons and selected 3 that caught her interest. 𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐵 complimented her choices and explained that they were easy to conceal and deploy. Izuku nodded, hiding the weapons behind her as they arrived at their destination. Suddenly, something struck the car, and Izuku looked out the window to see another vehicle alongside them. "There is another car here," Izuku observed as 𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐵 nodded in agreement. Eraserhead announced their arrival and exited the vehicle, prompting everyone to follow suit. They stepped out to face an underground door. Endeavor entered first, but Izuku sensed something unusual behind them. She turned to see 3 T-Rex dinosaurs watching her intently. As the pro-heroes began to walk inside, they noticed Izuku was not with them and turned to see the 3 T-Rex staring directly at her. Eraserhead attempted to call out to her, but the T-Rex's growling interrupted him. "It's fine, we are not going to hurt you. We are trying to save some dinosaurs," Izuku reassured, gently petting their heads. The T-Rex responded with a soft purr. "How about you stay here and wait for us, okay?" she suggested, and the T-Rex nodded, settling down in front of the cars, ready to wait for their return. "All right, let's go quickly," Izuku said, drawing her 2 daggers as she entered the building with the pro-heroes close behind. They walked through the dimly lit space, passing various doors, but Izuku's attention was drawn to a different one. She warned Eraserhead and Rue to remain still, sensing something beneath them. The pro-heroes, confused, complied. "Why are we stopping?" Rue inquired. Izuku pulled out her sword and struck the ground, causing it to crack. "Hawks, get them!" she shouted, causing the building to tremble. Hawks swiftly grabbed everyone except Izuku. "All right, Izuku, Hawks began, but the floor gave way, creating a large hole. Izuku fell through, landing on her feet amidst various dinosaurs that had been subjected to experiments. She approached a cage and unlocked it, but the dinosaurs remained inside, fixated on something behind her. Just as she turned, a figure injected her with a needle, administering a mysterious liquid. Izuku screamed, her voice echoing, prompting the dinosaurs nearby to roar and rush towards her. As she began to lose consciousness, a black and white dinosaur lunged at the assailant, biting them. Izuku blacked out as baby dinosaurs surrounded her, concerned. Rue and Hawks soon found Izuku unconscious, surrounded by the dinosaurs. "Hawks, we need to bring Izuku here. There are more dinosaurs," Eraserhead instructed through an earpiece. Hawks exchanged a glance with Rue and nodded. Rue lifted Izuku as the dinosaurs began to stir. "Follow me," he urged, sprinting out of the room with Hawks and the dinosaurs trailing behind into another area where Eraserhead, 𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐴, and the other pro-heroes awaited. Eraserhead and 𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐴 were alarmed to see Rue carrying an unconscious Izuku with dinosaurs following closely. "What happened to her?" Eraserhead exclaimed, approaching them with his quirk activated. "We arrived to find her passed out with the dinosaurs surrounding her," Hawks explained. "All right, there are 3 dinosaurs in the water. Go near the tank and see what happens," 𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐴 instructed, climbing onto Rue's shoulder. Rue nodded and approached the tank, where the 3 water dinosaurs pressed against the glass, watching Izuku sleep. Rue noticed BLD seeping from Izuku's back, growing heavier. He looked down to see BLD on the ground and realized it was from Izuku. "We have to go to UA right now," Rue declared, transforming into his dragon form, carrying the baby dinosaurs and the water ones in his arms. The other pro-heroes nodded in agreement and hurried to their car, while 𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐴 rode on Rue's dragon arm. "Follow me quickly," Rue urged, flapping his wings and soaring towards UA, with the larger dinosaurs following closely behind. Rue landed in Izuku's backyard, placing the dinosaurs down gently. "Stay here, I will be back," he instructed before flying back to UA. Spotting Recovery Girl in her office, he knocked on the window. She opened it, and before she could speak, the door swung open, revealing Rue's mother, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and a breathless Eraserhead. Without hesitation, Rue laid Izuku down carefully, trying to minimize further injury. "Oh my god," Recovery Girl and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 gasped, examining Izuku's back and removing her top clothing while Rue and Eraserhead turned away. "I will be back, I have to check on the dinosaurs," Rue said, leaving Yue and returning to his backyard, where all the dinosaurs awaited. Rue touched the ground and transformed back into his human form. "Alright, let's take care of you guys until Izuku wakes up, but first, let me give you names," he said, petting the baby dinosaurs one by one. He decided on names like Volcano, Naginatl, Everest, Poison, Sea, Ocean, Pacific, Magma, Lava, Cloud, Scar, Rocky, Brownie, Strep, Mockingjay, Husk, Red, and Paypal. After naming them, Rue received a text from his mother, revealing that Izuku had acquired a quirk called Angel Light, granting her magnificent wings that allowed her to fly swiftly. Smiling, he went inside the house with the baby dinosaurs while the larger ones remained outside. He fed the baby dinosaurs and then returned to Recovery Girl's office, where he spent the day with Izuku, who was still unconscious. Izuku began to stir, waking up in a white bed. She turned to her right and saw wings sprouting from her back, a result of the liquid injected into her. Attempting to rise, pain coursed through her body, prompting her to scream into her pillow, which startled Rue, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Hawks, Eraserhead, Principal 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐽𝐻, Ryukyu, and Recovery Girl awake. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Rue rushed to her side, trying to comfort her. Rue urged her to calm down, reminding her that they didn't want Scar to come crashing through the building in search of her. As Izuku cried, Rue noticed the scars on her back were open and bleeding. "Recovery Girl, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, the scars on Izuku's back are open and bleeding," Rue stated, stepping back from the distressed Izuku. Recovery Girl and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 noticed a concerning amount of BLD and urged the boys to leave and seek help from Ryukyu. Outside Recovery Girl's office, the boys waited, sitting quietly, while Rue paced in a state of panic. Hawks and Eraserhead attempted to calm him, but Rue growled at them whenever they tried to approach or speak to him. In a moment of inspiration, Rue decided to run out of Yue with Hawks keeping a watchful eye on him. They made their way to the back of Izuku's house and into the woods. Rue called out for Scar, Forest, Takshaka, Volcano, Magma, Cloud, Cranberry, and Rexy. Just as Hawks was about to speak, they heard the sound of multiple stomps and roars approaching. Hawks took to the sky while Rue remained on the ground. The dinosaurs Rue summoned stopped a few feet away, maintaining a respectful distance. Rue instructed them to follow him, and they nodded in readiness. He sprinted away from the woods with the dinosaurs trailing behind him, while Hawks returned to Yue. Scar approached the window of Recovery Girl's office, while the others entered through the door, waiting for 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Recovery Girl, and Ryukyu to clear the way to assist Izuku. The girls helped Izuku onto the bed, advising them not to disturb her bandaged back. Izuku smiled, trying to mask her pain but ultimately failed, pulling Cloud into her arms while lying on her stomach. Cloud nestled under her arms, providing comfort. Rue noticed this and offered his assistance, but the weight of her wings proved too much for him. He suggested that she either manage it herself or call for the strongest pro-hero available. Principal 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐽𝐻 and Eraserhead agreed, and Principal 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐽𝐻 proposed calling All Might. Upon hearing All Might's name, Izuku dropped her wings with a loud thud, visibly frightened. Rue, concerned, urged them not to call All Might, sensing something was amiss. Eraserhead then suggested contacting Veil King for help. After a few minutes, Veil King arrived alongside All Might. Ryukyu questioned All Might's presence, and Izuku's heart sank at the sight of him. All Might explained that he was there to discuss something with Recovery Girl and Principal 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐽𝐻. Before anyone could respond, the door swung open, revealing Night Eye. Izuku dropped her wings again, creating another loud thud that drew everyone's attention, including the dinosaurs nearby. Night Eye, Veil King, and All Might expressed their surprise. Rue noticed Izuku trembling and knelt to her level, searching her eyes for reassurance. Night Eye and All Might attempted to approach her, but Scar growled from outside, warning them to stay back. All Might questioned why she was there with the dinosaurs, but no one answered, knowing that time was of the essence for Izuku. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 asked 𝐴𝐿 to assist Izuku with her wings, but he found them too heavy to lift. All Might stepped in to help, but 𝐴𝐿 instinctively drew Izuku's sword, protective of her. All Might urged him to put the sword away so he could assist. As All Might lifted one of Izuku's wings, she began to cry and scream, her eyes turning white. Suddenly, everything around her began to levitate. Recovery Girl yelled at All Might to back off, fearing for Izuku's safety. All Might, panicking, admitted he hadn't anticipated this reaction. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and 𝐴𝐿 noticed that Izuku's back was healing, and her scars were fading. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 shouted that Izuku was healing herself, drawing everyone's attention back to her. As the light dimmed, the levitation ceased, and Izuku sat up on the bed, her wings drawn close. Her eyes returned to normal, and she looked around, surprised to see everyone staring at her. She asked 𝐴𝐿 what had happened, and he explained the situation. Izuku, still in shock, realized she needed to go home, but 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 insisted they needed to understand what had just occurred. Before they could discuss further, a large black and white claw reached in and gently lifted Izuku from the bed, causing All Might, 𝐴𝐿 and 𝐁𝐼 to panic, while the others chuckled at the sight of her being embraced by a massive T-Rex. Hawks instructed 𝐬𝐿 to return Izuku to the bed for further examination. After conducting a series of tests, they discovered that Izuku's quirk was called Heart of an Angel, granting her angelic wings, the ability to heal herself and others, and the power to summon weapons at will. Both Izuku and 𝐴𝐿 were astonished by the revelations about her abilities. Eraserhead informed them that they could go home now, but just then, 𝐬𝐿 picked up Izuku again. 𝐴𝐿, Ryukyu, Eraserhead, Hawks, Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, and Recovery Girl sighed and returned to their tasks. Eraserhead instructed 𝐴𝐿 to assist Izuku in walking, mentioning they would return the next day to discuss matters further. 𝐴𝐿 nodded, leading Izuku and the dinosaurs back to the woods. Upon arrival, they found all the dinosaurs, except for the 3 water ones, cuddling around Izuku, who had fallen asleep among them. Izuku and 𝐴𝐿 awoke to find themselves surrounded by the large and small dinosaurs they had saved in the woods. Izuku noticed her wings had spread out to keep the dinosaurs warm. Suddenly, someone called out to them, prompting Izuku to look at 𝐿 for help. 𝐿 stood up and moved toward the voice, announcing their presence. 𝐿 noticed that 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Ryukyu, Eraserhead, Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, and a few UA teachers were searching for them. Ryukyu expressed relief at finding them, mentioning that they had checked the rooms without success. 𝐿 glanced around and spotted All Might alongside 𝐁𝐼, prompting her to wonder about their presence. 𝐁𝐼 explained that All Might had come to offer assistance if needed. 𝐿 growled softly, but her attention was quickly diverted by a sound behind her. Turning around, she saw 𝐬𝐿 holding Izuku, approaching them with 3 large dinosaurs. 𝐿 asked Izuku what had happened this time. Izuku recounted how 𝐬𝐿 had picked her up after she heard a noise, leading her to the dinosaurs that were now staring at her. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 remarked that it seemed the dinosaurs were quite fond of Izuku, who nodded in agreement. 𝐬𝐿 growled at All Might, causing the other teachers, except for 𝐻𝐿, Eraserhead, Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, Recovery Girl, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, All Might, 𝐁𝐼, and Ryukyu, to look on in shock. Izuku, frustrated, pointed at 𝐁𝐼 and All Might, exclaiming about their unexpected presence. Before anyone could respond, they heard the sound of running approaching them. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Ryukyu exchanged glances with All Might and 𝐁𝐼, wishing them luck before being picked up by the 3 new dinosaurs. Hawks swooped down, grabbing Eraserhead and Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, flying toward the approaching dinosaurs. The sounds of running and roaring echoed through the woods. Snipe, alarmed, pulled out his gun and demanded to know what was happening. The pro-heroes prepared for a confrontation, weapons drawn and quirks activated. The dinosaurs appeared, joining the larger ones, ready to face All Might and 𝐁𝐼. 𝐻𝐿 expressed disbelief at the situation, throwing his hands up in exasperation. Everyone looked at him, puzzled. Izuku shrugged, explaining that the dinosaurs seemed to love her after she had saved them. As Izuku tapped 𝐬𝐿's finger, wanting to be let down, 𝐬𝐿 complied, allowing her to step onto the ground while remaining close by. Izuku walked toward the other dinosaurs, with 𝐿 assisting her. 𝐁𝐼 called out, asking them to stop, wanting to ask a question. The two girls paused, waiting for him to continue. Night-Eye inquired about the possibility of healing All Might's injured stomach, which had a significant wound. Izuku's wings made a loud thump as she shook her head, firmly stating her refusal before walking away with Rin. Everyone was taken aback until a flurry of dinosaurs, Forest, Bronto, Takshaka, Napoleon, Onigiri, Python, Rexy, Wheezy, Liz, Cranberry, Sloth, 𝐿𝐵, Iris, Hawks, Redmane, Alder, Volcano, Naginatl, Everest, Poison, Magma, Paypal, Mockingjay, Strep, Cloud, Brownie and Husk began to run around Izuku and Rin, who laughed and smiled as Izuku's wings unfurled. The sight brought smiles to everyone, except for Night-Eye and All Might. Izuku pondered aloud about giving the dinosaurs new names, placing her hand on her chin as she considered the three large ones. Rin suggested the names Cinder, Zippo, and Raven, which Izuku agreed with. The dinosaurs responded with joyful roars, nuzzling against Izuku and Rin. Night-Eye attempted to approach Izuku, but Scar, Cinder, Zippo, and Raven growled at him, prompting Rin to caution him against proceeding. Rin and Izuku led the dinosaurs into the woods, returning to their training area. Zippo gently picked up Recovery Girl before joining the others, leaving the pro heroes, except for Hawks, behind. Once they reached a clear area in the woods, Zippo, Cinder, and Raven set down their passengers and turned their attention to the younger dinosaurs, Paypal, Forest, Everest, Onigiri, Rexy, Cranberry, Hawks, Volcano, Naginatl, Poison, and Redmane, preparing for training. Recovery Girl encouraged them to work on their wings, touching Izuku's wings to help her prepare. Izuku nodded, ready to learn as Hawks and Rin guided her in using her wings. Initially struggling with their weight and size, Izuku eventually gained confidence and began to fly alongside Hawks and Rin, who had transformed into his half-dragon form. Everyone supported Izuku and Rin as they trained for the upcoming UA exam. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻 interrupted their hand-to-hand combat, asking Izuku and Rin to come closer. He proposed that they become private students of himself and Eraserhead, which shocked everyone except Eraserhead. Izuku expressed her willingness to join if Rin could stay with her, to which Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻 assured her that he would. Rin agreed, shaking Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻's hand alongside Izuku. Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻 confirmed that their training would begin before the first years, and both girls nodded enthusiastically before returning to their practice. Izuku and Rin focused on various weapons, preparing for any potential challenges they might face from villains. Suddenly, Izuku dashed toward the house, leaving everyone puzzled until they saw Forest returning with her notebook in hand. Izuku explained that she could identify their strengths and weaknesses. Rin smiled, assisting her with the notebook and discussing their quirks and hero suit designs. Izuku suggested the concept of underground heroes, and Rin agreed, prompting her to sketch a design for their new hero identities. Eraserhead was taken aback by their ambition. They continued to refine their designs and strategies until sunset. As they returned to the house, they found all the dinosaurs peacefully sleeping together. Izuku and Rin took a moment to capture the scene with a photo before heading inside. They prepared a meal for everyone and then took showers, settling down for the night with some of the dinosaurs, eagerly anticipating the next day's class with Eraserhead. The dinosaurs, Cinder, Zippo, and Raven, acknowledged their new roles as guardians, understanding the importance of their training and the bond they shared with Izuku and Rin. Inko instructed Rexy to wake up Izuku and Rin. Rexy approached them and let out a loud roar, causing them to jump out of bed. Rin, sitting on the edge of the bed, pulled Izuku up with him before they both got ready. They opened the closet, which was spacious enough for their belongings, and emerged wearing matching outfits. As they made their way downstairs, they spotted Hawks enjoying chicken with Rocky. Izuku and Rin exchanged smiles before heading into the kitchen for a quick snack. They exited the house, joined by Takshaka, Forest, Cranberry, Rexy, 𝐿𝐵, Alder, and Volcano, and walked across the schoolyard. While some students looked at them with admiration, others seemed intimidated, especially when they noticed the heavy footsteps behind them. Turning around, Izuku and Rin saw Cinder and Scar following closely. Izuku smiled and continued walking alongside her chosen dinosaurs, while 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐵 accompanied them to UA. The sight of this unusual group made other students run into the school in fear. They approached the side of UA, where Izuku and Rin climbed onto 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫's head near Aizawa's classroom window. Rin gently petted 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴's head and requested access to the window. In response, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 let out a thunderous roar that echoed across the UA grounds. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴 made his way to Aizawa's classroom, following 𝐀𝐮 and Volcano through the door. Upon reaching the window, he startled everyone inside. Izuku pulled out her phone to inform Aizawa of their arrival before hanging up. Aizawa, having been resting in his sleeping bag, got up and approached the window. When he opened it, Izuku and Rin climbed into the classroom, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴 bent down to peer inside. Izuku greeted Aizawa, surprising the class. Aizawa shook his head in disbelief. Just then, a roar echoed from behind the door, and Rin opened it to reveal the dinosaurs rushing in, jumping onto Aizawa. Izuku and Rin laughed as the dinosaurs nuzzled him. Midnight and Present Mike burst into the classroom, laughing at the sight of Aizawa being overwhelmed. Izuku playfully instructed the dinosaurs to get off Aizawa so he could start the class. The dinosaurs complied and stood beside her. Aizawa then directed the class to head to the training ground. As Izuku and Rin approached the window, they looked down at the ground. A girl with wolf ears and tails was caught off guard when Aizawa used his quirk to hasten their departure. He shouted for everyone to go, emphasizing that it would be documented, prompting the students to scramble for their gym outfits and rush to the training ground. Izuku and Rin laughed as they exited the classroom with the dinosaurs, while 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴 walked with Aizawa on his back. Upon arriving at the training ground, they noticed that everyone was dressed except for Rin and Izuku. A boy with fallen angel wings pointed out their lack of gym uniforms, demanding to know why they weren't dressed. Rin explained that they weren't in class, while another boy with eagle wings approached them. Seeing the confrontation, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴 stepped protectively in front of Izuku and Rin, growling at the class. Aizawa then clarified that Izuku and Rin were permitted to be there because he had asked them to hang out. The class looked at him skeptically, and one student questioned why Aizawa would allow his daughter to date someone like Rin. In response, Rin transformed into his dragon form, holding Izuku gently in one claw and growling at the boy. Aizawa instructed Rin to take the smaller dinosaurs to the building, emphasizing that if the students failed their training, they would be expelled. The class was shocked and angry, with one girl protesting that Aizawa had no right to do so. Izuku sighed and descended toward them, explaining that Aizawa had the authority to make such decisions, as confirmed by 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐽𝐻. Before any further arguments could ensue, a stampede of roars erupted behind Izuku, who smiled at the sight. The class was taken aback by the number of dinosaurs that appeared. Aizawa reiterated that he could expel them if they didn't take the training seriously. The students, frustrated, retreated to the locker room to gather their belongings before heading home. Aizawa sighed and made his way to the teacher's lounge with Rin, Izuku, and the baby dinosaurs. As they walked, Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻 summoned them to a meeting room. Upon entering, they found several heroes and teachers already present. Aizawa inquired about the purpose of the meeting, taking a seat with Izuku and Rin beside him, while the larger dinosaur kept watch by the window. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻 explained that all Might and some pro-heroes wanted to ask Aizawa a question. Izuku and Rin nodded, eager to hear what the heroes had to say. Mirko asked Aizawa why he disliked All Might, causing the hero to sweat nervously. Izuku then posed a hypothetical question about whether a quirkless child could become a hero, to which many teachers and pro-heroes responded affirmatively, encouraging hard work. However, some heroes argued against the idea, stating that without a quirk, a person could be in grave danger. This response angered Izuku, Rin, Aizawa, and Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻. Izuku's wings transformed into a striking black color, and Rexy, Forest, and Cranberry stood up, growling protectively. Izuku approached Endeavor, expressing her frustration with the situation. Izuku confronted Endeavor with a fierce determination, expressing her frustration about a child who might be in distress. The response from All Might and some pro-heroes was dismissive, suggesting that if the child was in such a state, the parents could simply let go of them. Izuku's anger grew, and the dinosaurs around her began to sense her rising emotions. She released her grip on Endeavor and revealed her painful past, sharing that she had once been that child who felt abandoned. All Might's words had left her feeling hopeless, and she cried openly, shocking everyone present. Rin stood up, holding a hand to halt the other dinosaurs, expressing her disbelief that someone could have left Izuku alone in such a vulnerable state. All Might attempted to defend himself, claiming he hadn't anticipated the child's despair. Aizawa then rose, using his quirk to confront the pro-heroes who had belittled Izuku's potential. His anger was palpable as he revealed that Izuku was his daughter, leaving everyone stunned. Before anyone could respond, Izuku rushed to Rin, seeking comfort. Rin embraced her tightly, and as Izuku leaned against him, she gradually fell asleep. Rin noticed her wings changing back to white, a sign of her calming down. However, their moment was interrupted when Aizawa and Hawks arrived, bringing urgent news about sightings of 4 dinosaurs. Rin quickly gathered the others and they set off, determined to investigate. As they reached the location, they spotted the 4 dinosaurs approaching them. Cloud gently set down Rin and Izuku, who woke up to find herself in unfamiliar surroundings. Rin pointed out the dinosaurs, and Izuku's wings and halo turned white again as she stepped forward, drawn to them. She smiled and began to pet the first dinosaur, and soon all 4 were surrounding her, responding to her affection. Just then, Bakugo shouted Izuku's name, causing her to flinch. Rin instinctively stepped in front of her, growling protectively. When Bakugo reached them, he confronted Izuku about her transformation and newfound quirk, using harsh words that shocked everyone. The dinosaurs growled in response, but Izuku remained calm, asserting her relationship with Rin and reminding Bakugo of his past actions. Rin's protective nature flared as he confronted Bakugo, reminding him that his words could have serious consequences. Aizawa and Hawks shared their disapproval of Bakugo's behavior. Eventually, Rin released Bakugo, and they prepared to head back home. Izuku climbed onto Rex, while Rin mounted Cinder, and they set off, with the dinosaurs following closely behind. Over the past 9 months, Izuku and Rin had been training the dinosaurs and honing their quirks with the help of Ryukyu, Inko, Hawks, and Aizawa. They even devised a plan to create saddles for the dinosaurs, allowing them to ride into town or during battles at UA. On the day of the UA exams, Izuku felt a mix of nerves and excitement as she walked alongside Rin and their dinosaurs. Rin reassured her, reminding her of the support she had. As they approached UA, Izuku took a deep breath, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. The sight of the other students, startled by the presence of the dinosaurs, only added to the tension as they entered the building together. They stayed away from the raptors, but Bakugo walked past them as if he were unfazed by the situation. Rin and Izuku made their way to the writing portion of the exam at the back of the classroom in silence. Blue jumped into Izuku's lap, settling comfortably while the other raptors lay beside them. As students began to enter, their expressions reflected fear upon seeing the raptors. Rin and Izuku remained quiet, gently petting the raptors on their heads. Once everyone was seated, a teacher entered the classroom, and Rin and Izuku recognized him as 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, who would oversee the writing exam. Izuku smiled and waved at 𝐀𝐮𝐴, while Rin nodded in acknowledgement. 𝐀𝐻𝐿 noticed them and smirked before returning to his usual demeanor. He informed the students about the test, emphasizing that they were not to cheat. After distributing the papers, he announced that they could begin. Izuku and Rin focused on their writing until Blue woke up and moved to Rin's lap. Rin smiled and patted Blue's head while continuing to write. After 15 minutes, Rin and Izuku finished the test. They stood up and walked down the steps to hand their papers to 𝐀𝐻𝐿, drawing surprised looks from their classmates. 𝐀𝐻𝐿 praised them, instructing them to go to where present Mike was. Izuku and Rin nodded and left the room, leaving the door open behind them. Izuku whistled to signal the raptors to follow as they exited. They reached present Mike, who was conversing with Midnight, alongside a sleeping Aizawa and Griffin. Izuku smiled, took out her phone to snap a picture, then put it away as she approached them. She remarked on how Griffin seemed to enjoy Aizawa's company. Present Mike and Midnight turned to see Rin and Izuku approaching, and Midnight confirmed that Griffin had been asleep for a while, gently petting 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴's head while Present Mic nodded in agreement. Their conversation continued until the teenagers arrived. Present Mic instructed everyone to take their seats. Izuku and 𝐴 complied, and the raptors followed them, settling behind their seats, with Blue once again in Izuku's lap. Once everyone was seated, Present Mic explained the exam's details while Izuku and 𝐴 whispered to each other. Their discussion was interrupted when one of the teenagers stood up to lecture 𝐴 and Izuku about the fourth robot. Before anyone could respond, the raptors stood up, growling and moving down the stairs toward the teenagers. Aizawa quickly called for Izuku to bring them back, expressing concern for everyone's safety. Izuku sighed and whistled for the raptors to return. They halted their advance and ran back to Izuku, taking their place behind her seat. Midnight thanked Izuku and urged everyone to sit back down while Present Mic continued explaining what to avoid regarding the fourth robot. After the explanation, they made their way to the bus. 𝐴 was assigned to Section A while Izuku headed to Section D. 𝐴 encouraged Izuku to do her best, giving her a quick kiss on the forehead before boarding the bus. Izuku blushed as she followed, the raptors trailing behind her. They settled in the back of the bus, where the other teenagers stared in surprise at the sight of Izuku's wings when she unfurled them. The boys gazed at her in awe but remained silent as she picked up Blue, petting her head while waiting, despite receiving unwanted attention. Upon arriving at Section D, they disembarked and Izuku noticed the presence of cameras. She instructed Blue, Everest, and 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 to follow her, and the raptors nodded in understanding. The doors opened just enough for them to enter, and Izuku took flight, soaring past the students with the raptors in tow. The onlookers, except for the teachers and pro heroes, were taken aback, accusing her of cheating until Present Mic shouted at them, reminding everyone that there was no time to waste in a battlefield scenario. The teenagers, feeling the urgency, rushed inside to find that most of the robots had already been taken down. Izuku and the raptors dashed through the mock city, taking down robots with precision while Izuku wielded her daggers. They moved swiftly, dodging attacks as Blue darted past them, creating confusion among the larger robots. Meanwhile, the UA teachers and pro heroes observed the students on the screen, noting that everyone was performing well. They watched as Izuku and 𝐴 tackled the robots, but it was evident that Izuku had some of the raptors with her. Mirko inquired about Izuku's quirk, prompting Hawks to explain that her name was Izuku Midoriya and her quirk was called Heart of an Angel. This revelation left some of the pro heroes and UA teachers puzzled. Ryukyu elaborated that she possessed the ability to heal and summon weapons of her choosing, while Midnight added that she was still developing more abilities, which astonished everyone present. As they continued to watch the screen, Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐿 had a sudden thought and declared it was time for the red button, pressing it 3 times, which left everyone in shock. Back with Izuku and the raptors, they were running when the ground began to shake, causing everyone to stop and look around. Suddenly, 3 bug zero-pointers emerged, wreaking havoc in the city. While the others panicked and retreated, Izuku whistled for the raptors to head to the front. The raptors sprinted toward the gate as Izuku attempted to buy them time. She drew her scythe and flew at super speed, striking at the robots, but her efforts seemed futile. The large zero-pointers began to target Izuku, and she skillfully dodged their attacks. The pro heroes and teachers, witnessing the chaos, rushed out of the room to assist her, but their attention was drawn to a horrifying scene on the screen where Izuku was hanging upside down by her leg, the sound of creaking echoing as she screamed. Eraserhead dashed out, followed closely by Hawks and Ryukyu. The dinosaurs from the forest sensed Izuku's distress and rushed toward her location, except for Ocean, Sea, and Pacific. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the 3 massive zero-pointers advancing toward them, with Izuku still suspended and the creaking sounds intensifying. Before anyone could react, they heard the thunderous roars and heavy stomps approaching, signaling that the battle was far from over. Everyone observed both large and small dinosaurs with 2 dragons following them toward the massive zero-pointers, trying to save Izuku. Izuku, feeling faint, called for help as she blacked out. 𝐴, in a panic, tackled the large zero-pointer that had Izuku surrounded by clouds, while the other dinosaurs engaged the remaining zero-pointer. The battle raged on until the large dinosaurs began to bite at the robots, causing them to explode and allowing Izuku to fall to the ground. Scar-Tail caught Izuku just before she hit the ground. After the big zero-pointers were defeated, the dinosaurs moved away from the scene, heading toward the gate, gently placing Izuku down in front of her. Recovery Girl noted that Izuku's leg was healing and that she just needed to rest before heading home. The dinosaurs made their way back with Eraserhead and Rin following closely behind, while the baby dinosaurs ran ahead. Upon arriving home, Aizawa explained the situation to Inko, while Rin, Izuku, and the dinosaurs settled into their nest in the forest, a spacious area that accommodated all of them. They curled up together, with Rin and Izuku nestled in the center, and soon fell asleep. It had been 2 days since the 𝐂𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 exam. Rin and Izuku had successfully entered 𝐂𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and were placed in Aizawa's class. One morning, while they were sleeping in their bedroom, Aizawa and Hawks entered to find them cuddling with 𝐿𝐵, Iris, Alder, Mockingjay, and Griffin. Aizawa and Hawks exchanged smiles and took a picture to share in the parents' group chat. Hawks approached the bedside and gently shook Rin and Izuku awake, but Rin simply pulled the covers over their heads, reluctant to rise. With a sigh, Hawks called for Forest, who happily jumped onto the bed, causing Rin to tumble off with a thud. Izuku quickly sat up, noticing Forest on the bed and Rin rubbing his head on the floor. Now awake, Izuku declared it was time to get up. Aizawa and Hawks nodded and exited the room. Izuku sighed as she got up and walked to the closet with Rin to choose their outfits, as Principal News had permitted them to wear what they liked since they were his students. After selecting their clothes, Izuku took a shower first, followed by Rin. Once they were both ready, they left the bathroom with Everest and grabbed their backpacks, leaving the room while 𝐿𝐵, Iris, Alder, Mockingjay, and Griffin continued to sleep. Downstairs, they found Inko preparing to leave for work with Ryukyu, while Aizawa and Hawks enjoyed their coffee. Izuku and Rin joined them, each grabbing a cup of coffee. Aizawa asked if they were ready, and they nodded while sipping their drinks. The group, including Everest, Forest, and Cranberry, set off for 𝐂𝐮𝐴, enjoying the tranquility until they arrived at the building. As they walked through the empty halls, they decided to visit Principal News' office to relax for a bit. However, they were soon called by Principal News, who approached them and hopped onto Izuku's shoulder, suggesting they head to Class 1A to wait. Upon entering Class 1A, they noticed some students had already arrived. Rin, while sipping his coffee, sat at the front desk, with Izuku settling on his lap and Principal News perched on the desk with a cup of mint tea. Aizawa and Hawks engaged in conversation with them, while Forest, Everest, and Cranberry lounged nearby, dozing off. After about 40 minutes, more students began to trickle into the classroom, but an unsettling feeling arose when a small boy with grapes on his head entered. Everyone except Izuku and Rin took their seats. Principal News continued chatting with Rin and Izuku until Inko appeared at the door with Takashaka and Rexy. Izuku noticed Inko holding a little boy wrapped in bandages and scars. She stood up from Rin's lap and approached Inko, noticing a letter tucked inside the boy's jacket. After reading the note, Izuku's wings began to change color to a dark hue. Concerned, Rin, Principal News, Aizawa, and Hawks tried to calm her down, but Izuku turned to Aizawa, handing him the letter and requesting that he find the boy's parents. She then returned to the little boy, her hands glowing as her wings shifted back to white, healing him. The students watched in astonishment, but the boy gazed at Izuku with admiration, which ceased when Rin began to growl after reading the letter. Once Izuku finished healing, Inko prepared to head to Recovery Girl's office, but Izuku held onto the little boy, refusing to let go. Inko relented, saying that Izuku could keep him before leaving with Principal News to investigate the letter. Hawks introduced himself and Aizawa as their homeroom and training teachers, and the class nodded in acknowledgement, though Rin and Izuku remained focused on the boy in Izuku's arms. A student raised their hand, asking why Rin and Izuku weren't in uniform. Hawks explained that they could wear anything they wanted because the uniforms would be unsuitable for them. Bakugo protested loudly, causing Rin to growl in response, ready to confront him. However, Izuku handed the little boy to Rin to help calm him down. Aizawa noted that it was their choice since they had been at 𝐂𝐮𝐴 longer than the others, leaving the rest of the class surprised. With the students finally quieted, 𝐬𝐬𝐴 announced it was time to head to the training ground, and Rin, Hawks, and Izuku led the way out of the classroom with the little boy in tow. A girl was interrupted by 𝐬𝐬𝐴 using his quirk on them. He instructed everyone to get up, change into their training uniforms, and head to the training ground. As they arrived, Izuku and Rin were seen in different outfits, engaged in conversation with Hawks while the other classmates emerged from the changing room. Hawks announced that they would be testing their quirks, and 𝐬𝐬𝐴 produced a ball. He explained that they would throw the ball into his hand to see how far they could send it. Everyone nodded in understanding. 𝐬𝐬𝐴 called Rin to go first, and Rin stepped into the circle with the ball, flanked by Everest and Forest. He transformed his right arm into his dragon arm, gazing up at the sky before launching the ball. It soared high, leaving a trail of fire behind. The class was left in awe, except for Izuku, Hawks, and 𝐬𝐬𝐴. 𝐬𝐬𝐴 sighed as he checked the device and revealed Rin's score, which left everyone stunned. Rin had achieved infinity. A girl with pink skin remarked on how fun this was, but 𝐬𝐬𝐴 quickly corrected her, stating that if anyone placed last, they would be expelled from you. This announcement stirred frustration among the students, but Rin and Izuku were confident they could perform well if they unleashed their full power. After completing all the tests, they glanced at the leaderboard and saw that 𝐻𝐻𝐿 was in last place. He lamented his situation, and as he attempted to approach Izuku, Forest caught him by the collar. Hawks instructed Forest to take 𝐻𝐻𝐿 to Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴's office and handed him a piece of paper. After Forest left with 𝐻𝐻𝐿, 𝐬𝐬𝐴 told the class to change and return to the classroom, where a paper awaited them on their desks. Upon their return, everyone settled at their desks, except for Rin and Izuku, who perched on 𝐬𝐬𝐴's desk while reading the paper. A classmate warned them that they were asking for trouble, but they ignored him, engrossed in their reading. When 𝐬𝐬𝐴 and Hawks entered the classroom, they found it quiet. Hawks announced that it was a free PRD and encouraged everyone to get to know their classmates by sharing their names and quirks. Everyone complied, introducing themselves until it was Rin and Izuku's turn. Izuku introduced himself as 𝐬𝐿, sharing that his quirk was Angel Judgment. He then noticed 𝐻𝐻𝐿, Raven, Cinder, and Bronto peering into the classroom, prompting laughter from him as he approached the window to greet them. The rest of the class was surprised, except for 𝐬𝐬𝐴, Rin, and Hawks, who smiled at the interaction. Rin introduced himself as 𝐻𝐻𝐿 and revealed that his quirk was Dragon. This revelation shocked everyone except 𝐬𝐬𝐴, Hawks, and Izuku, as they recognized Rin as the son of the number 10 dragon hero, Ryukyu. Momo questioned how Rin could be Ryukyu's son if he didn't resemble her, which prompted Rin to growl in response. He asserted his identity and pulled out his phone, ready to call his mother. Uraraka challenged him to prove it, and Rin dialed Ryukyu, placing the call on speaker. When Ryukyu answered, he explained that some classmates doubted his lineage based on his appearance. Ryukyu agreed to come to the school. After hanging up, Izuku asked Rin if his mother was really coming, to which Rin confirmed. As they waited, Mina began to speak but was interrupted when Ryukyu entered the classroom alongside 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Recovery Girl. Ryukyu inquired who doubted Rin's identity as her son. Shoto questioned how Rin could be her son if he didn't look like her, to which Ryukyu explained that Rin had changed significantly after developing his quirk. Recovery Girl added that they had attempted to locate Rin's parents but no one answered the door. Suddenly, Izuku's wings turned black and he flew to the window, allowing 𝐻𝐻𝐿 to grab a letter from 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫's hand. He declared he would be back and left with Raven, Cinder, and 𝐻𝐻𝐿, following the scent that Cinder had detected. They arrived at a house where Izuku noticed that the occupants were intoxicated. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 set Izuku down, revealing that the door had been unlocked all along. Izuku entered quietly, accompanied by Rexy and Magma, trying not to wake anyone. In the living room, they found the parents asleep with beer bottles in hand. Rexy and Magma took the bottles from them and exited the house, while Raven and Cinder carefully carried the parents. Izuku suggested they head back, and they flew back to 𝐻𝐻𝐿. After arriving, they noticed some students leaving but pressed on, calling 𝐬𝐬𝐴 to inform him that they had found the boys' parents. 𝐬𝐬𝐴 and Hawks came outside, placing quirk cuffs on the parents before using Hawks' feathers to transport them to 𝐻𝐻𝐴's underground cell. Izuku returned home to find Principal Nizu, Inko, Recovery Girl, Ryukyu, and Rin trying to comfort the little boy. Seeing this, Izuku picked him up and whispered soothing words in his ear. The boy calmed down, hugging Izuku tightly, with Rin joining in the embrace. Izuku asked the boy his name, and he replied that his name was Go, with no last name. Rin then inquired about Go's quirk, but Go began to tremble nervously. Go explained that his ability, called Lionheart, allowed him to transform into different lion forms, a cub, a teenager, and eventually an adult when he turned 18. Izuku and Rin smiled, offering Go a comforting head pat, assuring him that he was safe with them. Go nodded, burying his face into Izuku's neck. Just then, Aizawa and Hawks entered the house, noticing the little boy hugging Izuku. Hawks handed a card to Izuku, knowing she would need it. Rin mentioned they were going outside to gather supplies for Go and that they would be at the nest if anyone needed them. Izuku nodded, grabbed her computer, and headed into the forest, with dinosaurs following closely behind. Go watched in confusion as the dinosaurs trailed after them. Upon reaching the dinosaur nest, they found Cinder and other large dinosaurs waiting. Rin and Izuku settled on the ground, leaning back against the dinosaurs while Go sat comfortably in Rin's lap. Izuku began online shopping for Go, explaining the items they were selecting and the names of the dinosaurs around them. After enjoying a meal that Hawks had brought, Go fell asleep, and Rin and Izuku exchanged smiles, relieved that he was safe while his parents were being questioned at you. Izuku contemplated building a sanctuary for dinosaurs, allowing new ones to come and go freely. She shared the idea with Rin, who agreed, but as darkness fell, they all drifted off to sleep with Go nestled between them. The next morning, Izumi woke up to find Go joyfully riding Rexy, with Forest and Cranberry playfully running around. Izumi smiled and got up, noticing Python swooping in with Principal 𝐾𝐮𝐬𝐻𝐿 on his back. She extended her arm for Python to land on, and once Principal 𝐾𝐮𝐬𝐻𝐿 settled on her shoulders, he informed her of an upcoming mission during present mix class, requesting her and Rin's assistance. Izumi nodded and went to wake Rin, who agreed to help after hearing the details. Principal 𝐾𝐮𝐬𝐻𝐿 instructed them to change into their upgraded hero suits, assuring them that the teachers and pro heroes wouldn't mind. Rin encouraged Go to get ready, and they all headed to the house. Forest accompanied them, waiting outside while Izumi, Rin, and Go changed into their new outfits, which included various tools and weapons. Go noticed the difference in their attire and asked why they were dressed that way. Izumi explained that they had an important task, and Go would be staying with Present Mike. Go nodded, and they all made their way downstairs, where Inko was conversing with Aizawa, Present Mike, and Midnight about the mission. Aizawa called for them to hurry to class as they stepped outside. The group saw their dinosaur companions waiting for them, and Izumi called for Zippo, 𝐻𝐿𝐿, and Cloud to join. The three dinosaurs emerged from the forest, ready to accompany them. Rin placed Go on Volcano's back, and they set off toward you, arriving just before school started. Midnight took Go, Forest, and Nagandel with her to spend some time together while Aizawa, Present Mike, Rin, Izumi, and the Raptors entered Class 1. 𝐻𝐿𝐿, Cloud, and Zippo waited at the window, watching. Aizawa explained that the mission involved investigating strange noises coming from the woods near Izumi's old house, which had frightened the neighborhood. Izumi and Rin listened intently, and Izumi opened the window to ask Cloud, Zippo, and 𝐻𝐿𝐿 for additional help. The three dinosaurs roared in acknowledgement before racing back into the forest. Just then, the intercom announced that Izumi, Rin, and Aizawa were needed in Principal 𝐾𝐮𝐬𝐻𝐿's office. Rin led the way out of the classroom, followed by Izumi and Aizawa, with Forest and Magma standing guard at the door. Inside the office, Principal 𝐾𝐮𝐬𝐻𝐿 revealed that he had discovered an island for Rin and Izumi to raise their dragons. Shocked, they asked if it was far away, but he assured them it was not. He had even created an underground passage to the island, inviting them to explore it that weekend to see if they wanted to build something there. The three of them nodded in agreement and returned to Class 1A just as the bell rang, signaling the start of the lesson. As they entered, their classmates turned to look at them, prompting Rin to tell them to stop staring while he texted in their group chat with Izumi. The class turned back to face Aizawa, who began the lesson. Time passed, and during present mix lesson, Izumi and Rin were taking a nap until Aizawa and Midnight burst through the door, carrying Go in Midnight's arms. Startled, Izumi and Rin quickly sat up to see the unexpected visitors. Midnight urged them to hurry, explaining that the others were waiting. Izumi and Rin nodded, rising and heading toward the window. Bakugo shouted, demanding to know where they were going. Rin responded with a gesture before leaping out the window, followed by Izumi, who smirked as she flew out, spotting all the dinosaurs gathered below. Rin roared, transforming into his dragon form as they took off, with everyone trailing behind. They navigated through the streets, causing cars to stop and clear a path. Eventually, they arrived at Izumi's old house, where they landed beside Rin and Cloud. The sight of All Might, 𝐻𝐮𝐿𝐱, Hawks, Mirko, Ryukyu, Kamui Woods, Fat Gum, Ms. Joke, Night Eye, Snip, Gran Torino, and Endeavor greeted them. Endeavor approached, questioning their presence, but was halted by Takashaka and Ravens stepping in front of him. Hawks gestured for Rin and Izumi to join him, leaving the other heroes in shock, except for Ryukyu, Aizawa, and Midnight. Izumi and Rin followed Hawks into the forest, accompanied by Onijirai, Cloud, Scar, Raven, Cinder, Zippo, Rex, and others, who growled protectively. The pro-heroes, recovering from their surprise, chased after them, with the dinosaurs in tow. After a few miles, Izumi raised her hands, signaling for everyone to stop and listen. They landed on the ground where 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐫, Hawks in dinosaur form, Rocky, Griffin, Croc, and Strep awaited them. Night Eye shouted in confusion as they heard distant screams and roars. Izumi and Rin exchanged glances, and Izumi called out to a group of dinosaurs to follow them quickly. They took off at incredible speed, the ground trembling beneath them as they dodged trees. Suddenly, they spotted villains using their quirks on 3 children and dinosaurs that were chained up, struggling to break free. Anger surged within Izumi and Rin as they witnessed this injustice. The pro-heroes, now aware of the situation, saw the fury in Izumi and Rin's eyes. Summoning their sides, Izumi and Rin prepared for battle. Night Eye cautioned them against killing the villains, but they charged in, engaging multiple foes at once. Izumi's voice took on a commanding tone, calling out to the carnivorous dinosaurs hidden in the forest. They emerged, tearing into the villains, while others attempted to fight back but were swiftly dealt with by the dinosaurs. Izumi and Rin rescued the 3 children, who bore scars, and surrounded them with blue and forest for protection. They entrusted the children to Hawks, Ryukyu, and Aizawa while they focused on freeing the dinosaurs. Rin suggested they remove the chains and collars, and they flew to the trapped dinosaurs, slicing through the restraints. With a command, Rin urged the freed dinosaurs to feast on the villains, who had harmed the children. The pro-heroes watched in astonishment as the carnivorous dinosaurs devoured the villains. Ryukyu warned them not to intervene, explaining that once Izumi or Rin declared feeding time, the dinosaurs would not stop until they were finished. The pro-heroes fell silent, witnessing the relentless feeding until no villains remained. Izumi whistled, commanding everyone to halt. Just as she began to speak, a rustling in the bushes caught her attention. She pointed toward the noise, prompting Blue, Strep, and Forest to investigate. The pro-heroes were puzzled until a scream pierced the air, revealing Strep holding a villain aloft, who was desperately trying to escape. Rin advised the villain to quiet down to avoid being eaten, and the villain complied. With the threat neutralized, Aizawa instructed everyone to return home. Rin and Izumi gathered the 3 children, climbing onto Cloud and Raven, while Aizawa and Midnight mounted Onijirai and Redmane. They set off toward Yu, moving through the streets as onlookers stepped aside in awe. Upon returning to Yu, the group approached the school grounds, where Principal 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴, Present Mike, Hound Dog, and Ectoplasm awaited them with a cage for the captured villain. Strep dropped the villain at their feet and perched on Izumi's shoulder. Principal 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 acknowledged their safe return and suggested they check on the 3 children to assess their condition. Rin and Izumi nodded in agreement. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 climbed onto Strep's back, while Izumi and Rin dismounted from Cloud and Raven. They entered the building alongside the Raptors, Aizawa, Present Mike, Go, Hawks, Midnight, Ryukyu, and the other pro-heroes. As they walked through the halls, students heading to lunch were surprised to see Izumi and Rin in their hero costumes. They made their way to Recovery Girl's office, gently placing the 3 children on the bed. Izumi approached Recovery Girl and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, urgently requesting their assistance. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 turned to see 3 children resting on the bed, concern etched on her face as she asked what had happened. Rin explained that during a mission near their home, they had encountered a villain using their quirks on the children while dinosaurs were chained and trying to save them. Recovery Girl assessed the situation and requested Izumi's healing powers to help the children. Izumi, instructed to focus on healing, closed her eyes and concentrated. Her eyes began to glow white, and her wings radiated a soft light. Recovery Girl encouraged her to touch the children, and as Izumi did, a warm glow enveloped them. The scars on the children began to fade, though not completely. Once the healing was done, Izumi's eyes returned to normal, and she fell to her knees, exhausted. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 rushed to her side, helping her regain her strength. Recovery Girl treated the children's injuries, bandaging their burn marks and taking blood samples. She suggested that Izumi visit Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻 for a bit, allowing her to skip class for the day. Izumi nodded and left the office with Forest, Cranberry, Rexy, and Everest by her side. As they walked, someone touched her shoulder, prompting her friends to growl protectively. Izumi turned to see a classmate from Midnight's class, and with a snap of her fingers, she calmed her friends. Curious, the light blue girl asked how Izumi managed that. However, Izumi's attention shifted to a shy boy nearby, and she approached him, offering a reassuring smile and a gentle pat on the back. The boy smiled back shyly, and Izumi, sensing his hesitation, took his hands and led him toward Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻's office, her friends following in surprise. Upon entering the office, Izumi was greeted by the pro-heroes involved in the mission, along with Rin and Go. She excitedly introduced the shy boy, Tamaki, to everyone, causing some to stifle their laughter. Midnight playfully asked Izumi to let go of Tamaki, but she insisted he was now part of her family. Rin reminded her that they had already adopted 4 children, but Izumi maintained her claim. After some gentle coaxing, Tamaki agreed to join their family, albeit hesitantly. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻 commended them for their efforts during the mission and granted them a day off, suggesting they return to Recovery Girl's office to check on the healing children. As they made their way back, Rin explained how they had rescued the 3 kids, while Tamaki listened intently, a smile slowly forming on his face. They arrived at the Recovery Girl's office to find the children sleeping peacefully. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 assured them that the children would wake up the next day, and they left, heading home with Tamaki. As they walked through the forest, Tamaki clung nervously to Izumi's wing. Rin whistled, summoning their dinosaurs, and introduced Tamaki as a new family member. They brainstormed names for the new arrivals, and Tamaki confidently suggested several names, which Rin, Izumi, and Go enthusiastically accepted. They spent the evening enjoying each other's company, and Tamaki grew more comfortable, chatting without stuttering. After a meal, they settled down for the night, eagerly anticipating the events of the following day. The next morning, Izumi awoke to her phone ringing. She answered to find Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻 on the line, requesting her and Rin to come to his office immediately. After a brief conversation, Izumi woke Rin, who had been sleeping next to Go. She informed him of the call, and they quickly got ready for the day. Once dressed, they made their way downstairs to find Ryukyu waiting with coffee. After a quick breakfast, they left the house with their dinosaur companions and met Raven and Owl outside. Together, they headed to 𝐒𝐮𝐻𝐻, where Raven and Owl helped them access Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻's office through the window while the others knocked on the door. Once inside, they joined Midnight and Izuku, ready to hear what Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻 had to say. Night Eye questioned why they were present again, his tone laced with frustration. Rin, flanked by Forest and Magma, growled in response, but Izumi raised her hands to signal them to stop. Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻 interjected, asserting that if they did not want his niece there, they should leave. The room fell silent, everyone avoiding eye contact except for Izuku, Hawks, Midnight, Recovery Girl, Present Mike, and Ryukyu, who exchanged knowing smiles with Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻. Izumi then inquired about the reason for their gathering. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻 explained that he wanted to discuss the upcoming trip. Izumi and Rin nodded in agreement. She mentioned that she would bring her meat-eaters along just in case, and Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻 requested that she teach them survival skills in the wild. Endeavor then shifted the focus, suggesting they discuss the dinosaurs and their implications. Aizawa questioned his reasoning, prompting Endeavor to express concern that no one would want Izumi as a hero if her dinosaurs harmed villains. All Might added that no pro-heroes would be willing to train her under those circumstances. This statement caused Magma, Takashaka, Forest, Ryukyu, and Rin to growl in protest. Tears welled in Izumi's eyes as she stood and flew out the window, seeking solace elsewhere. Rin immediately followed her, accompanied by Ryukyu. Aizawa, furious, shouted at All Might, demanding to know why he would say such things to his daughter. Activating his quirk, he rendered everyone except Midnight, Present Mike, Hawks, and Recovery Girl quirkless. All Might defended his stance, insisting that Izumi needed to understand the reality of her situation. He pointed at the dinosaurs, emphasizing that they would hinder her chances of becoming a great hero. Present Mike, frustrated, exclaimed that they had no idea what Izumi had endured. Night Eye dismissed this, rolling his eyes and suggesting she had lived a perfect life. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻 climbed onto the table, growling in anger. He vehemently declared that Izumi had not lived a perfect life, causing everyone to step back. Fat Gum, munching on a donut, scoffed at the notion. Midnight revealed that Izumi had been quirkless, shocking everyone in the room. All Might questioned how she could have developed a quirk, suggesting she might have come from a different lineage. Recovery Girl clarified that she and Aizawa were the first to train Izumi and her raptor, Forest. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻 pointed to Forest, recounting how Izumi had faced injuries while saving others but never gave up. Hawks added that Izumi's mother could confirm the struggles she faced, including a traumatic transformation caused by a villain and an evil doctor. Mirko shook her head in disbelief, asserting that there was no way Izumi had once been a boy. Just then, Ryukyu returned with an irate 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, who held a notebook filled with information about Izumi's past. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 demanded to know if they had just claimed her daughter had once been a boy, leaving everyone confused and shocked. 𝐴𝐻𝐿ady questioned the possibility, stating that Izumi looked undeniably like a girl. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 then placed photographs on the table, revealing Izumi's past with scars from school, prompting a wave of astonishment among the gathered heroes. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 shook his head in disbelief, expressing that it was indeed possible. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 presented pictures of Izumi as a girl along with a medical file detailing Izumi's past. They examined the file, which included a picture of a boy with green hair and freckles. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 explained that this boy was her son, Izuku, who had transformed into a girl due to a villain's actions, now known as Izumi. She set aside a notebook about dinosaurs, while Aizawa noted that Izumi had meticulously kept tabs on various heroes, documenting their powers and the dinosaurs she had adopted. Confusion swept through the group as they looked at the notebooks, which contained alarming details about how heroes could improve and potential threats to them. Behind the picture, they spotted Izumi. Endeavor, standing up in shock, questioned why she was allowed to attend the school if she had been training dinosaurs. Aizawa clarified that she had been at 𝐻𝐿 since he rescued her from a villain when she was still a boy, recalling a time when he first encountered Forest as a baby raptor. As everyone turned to Aizawa, they saw a picture of Izuku, Forest, and Aizawa together in an unfamiliar setting. Forest approached 𝐻𝐿𝐴, nuzzling her hand while Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻 perched on her shoulder. The group watched as 𝐻𝐿𝐴 gently petted Forest. Midnight glanced at the time and announced that it was feeding time for the dinosaurs. The group, curious, followed Principal 𝐀𝐿𝐴 as Forest opened the door, leading them outside. Raven and Owl perched by the window, waiting for the next move. The pro-heroes exited Principal 𝐀𝐿𝐴's office, following the group to Ground Zero Izumi. They were puzzled until they arrived to see a massive pile of meat, plants, fish, and leaves. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 called for Izumi and Rin, who emerged from their hiding spot and flew toward 𝐻𝐿𝐴 and Ryukyu. Hawks, having just finished a call with Tamaki, identified the fish as belonging to the sea, ocean, and Pacific. Izumi nodded and let out a loud whistle that echoed, signaling the dinosaurs. The pro-heroes listened intently as they heard the sounds of roars and footsteps approaching from the open side of the dome, revealing a forest beyond. Izumi and Rin stood at the front of the large pile of food, and the dinosaurs halted before them, awaiting permission to eat. Izumi announced that it was feeding time, soaring into the air with Rin before whistling again, allowing the dinosaurs to feast. The pro-heroes watched in awe as the dinosaurs eagerly approached their meals. Afterward, Izumi and Rin made their way back to Class 1A, where students from both Class 1A and Class 1B were engaged in conversation. They felt a bit out of place but chose to ignore the chatter and headed to the front of the classroom. Izumi sat on Aizawa's desk, while Rin stood beside her, observing the others. Momo pointed out that Izumi wasn't allowed to sit there, but Izumi paid her no mind. The door opened, and everyone turned to see Inko, Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻, Aizawa, Midnight, Recovery Girl, Present Mike, along with 2 girls and 1 boy in Ryukyu's arms. Recovery Girl requested Izumi and Rin to step outside for a moment. Once outside, Rin inquired about the purpose of their meeting. Recovery Girl explained that the children in Ryukyu's arms were named 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and 𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵. They shared a quirk called Wolf Pack, allowing them to transform into wolves. Each child had unique abilities and recognized Rin and Izumi as their parents due to their scent. Inko added that the children were cautious around strangers but would trust those they had been around. After the discussion, Rin and Izumi returned to Class 1A, where they found 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Go, and 𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵 huddled together in Aizawa's arms, peacefully sleeping. Midnight announced that they had to leave, and with Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻, Present Mike, Inko, and Recovery Girl, she exited the room. Class 1B then departed for their own classroom. Hawks informed everyone that they would be going on a field trip later that day after lunch. Everyone except Rin and Izumi nodded in agreement. Hawks approached them, mentioning that he would take the kids with him and would see them later. He affectionately kissed Izumi on the forehead and fist-bumped Rin before taking the children from Aizawa and leaving the classroom. Aizawa sighed and began the lesson, and while everyone listened attentively, Rin and Izumi were busy texting each other about creating a habitat for dinosaurs in the woods. They continued their conversation throughout the lessons, occasionally answering questions correctly when called upon by the teachers. After lunch, Class 1A was chatting, and Rin and Izumi were still engrossed in their texts. A group of classmates, including Mina, Siro, Denki, Tsuyu, Ida, and Momo, approached them. They expressed their frustration about Rin and Izumi not engaging with them during school. Izumi, feeling defensive, questioned why they should care. Ida insisted that as classmates, they should communicate and not act superior. Standing up with Rin, Izumi requested them to step aside as they intended to leave. However, Bakugo grabbed her arm, prompting Rin to grip Bakugo's arm tightly. Just then, Aizawa, Midnight, Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐻, and Present Mike entered the room, visibly upset. Aizawa demanded Bakugo to release his daughter. Bakugo let go but retaliated by striking Izumi, causing gasps from the class. Rin reacted swiftly, kicking Bakugo and sending him stumbling back. Class 1A was shocked and rushed to the window, where Siro used his tape to catch Bakugo and bring him back inside. Ida questioned why Izumi would act that way towards a classmate. Izumi rolled her eyes and retrieved her suitcase from the wall, while Rin grabbed hers, preparing to leave the classroom. Siro helped Bakugo to the door and untied him as he nursed his injury. Aizawa addressed the class, explaining that Izumi's silence was for a reason and instructed everyone to gather their belongings and change. Izumi and Rin stepped outside, accompanied by the raptors and T-Rexes, who were ready for Class 1A and Class 1B. Aizawa, Midnight, and Present Mike approached them, suggesting they prepare for the field trip and be ready to confront any villains they might encounter. Rin and Izumi nodded and headed toward their destination, with the raptors and T-Rexes following closely behind. Upon arrival, they noticed 13 waiting at the entrance, sensing something was amiss as a bus pulled up. Rin and Izumi rushed outside to warn Aizawa not to enter if things seemed off. Aizawa, Midnight, Hawks, and Present Mike became alert. Midnight instructed Ida to return to you and seek backup immediately. Aizawa then ordered the rest of Class 1A and Class 1B to board the bus, causing shock and anger among the students. One student questioned why they should listen to him. Hawks humorously suggested that perhaps the student wanted to be in danger. Just then, 𝐶𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Cloud appeared behind Izumi, eyeing the student from Class 1B. 𝐻𝗚𝐿 decided it was best for them to return to the bus and wait. Izumi, Rin, and Aizawa moved toward the entrance, with Hawks, Midnight, and Present Mike following closely. 13, confused about the absence of the other classes, was reassured by Rin that they were safe but needed to prepare for a fight. Suddenly, a purple portal appeared in the center of the lobby, and a villain with hands all over his body emerged, searching for the missing students. The mist man beside him suggested sending out the villains, and soon, hundreds of villains poured out, smirking menacingly. Izumi sighed upon seeing 𝐻𝗚𝐽𝐸 and Forest nearby. One of the villains shouted in alarm at the sight of the approaching raptors and T-Rexes. Izumi smiled and nodded, signaling the creatures to charge forward, engaging the villains one by one in a fierce but controlled battle. The villains were filled with fear as they fled, pursued by raptors and T-Rexes. The hand villain looked shocked as he ran toward Izumi, but Rin let out a powerful roar that sent shockwaves through the air, knocking the hand villain into a tree. Izumi and Rin walked down, smiling, while Zippo and Raven stayed close by, watching the villains scramble to escape. The hand villain, backing away from Izumi and Rin, asked what they were. Rin laughed with Izumi before their demeanor shifted, an intimidating aura surrounding them. Izumi summoned a scythe, causing the hand villain to take a step back. Just then, the door burst open, drawing everyone's attention, except for the dinosaurs still chasing the villains. Ida had returned with pro-heroes, announcing that backup had arrived. Rin and Izumi rolled their eyes before looking back at the dinosaurs. With a sigh, they took to the air, surveying the scene. Rin's whistle caught the attention of the dinosaurs. He commanded them to gather every villain still standing and ensure they didn't escape, threatening that any who tried would be dealt with. The dinosaurs roared in response, instilling fear in the villains. One by one, the villains were scooted upstairs by the raptors, who kept a close watch on them as they were taken to the police. Izumi swiftly incapacitated the hand villain with a precise strike, causing him to lose consciousness. She then dragged him out of the building, cuffing his hands before placing him in the police van alongside the other captured villains, unaware that the mist villain had vanished. Izumi and Rin soared back to 𝐸𝐴, with their dinosaurs, heading home. Upon arrival, they entered the forest and found Hawks, Tamaki, Go, Yasano, Koyo, and Vanitas peacefully sleeping. They settled into the nest, exhausted and indifferent to the calls of their names, eager for rest. The next morning, Izumi awoke to the appealing sight of the sunrise. She gently extricated herself from the huddle of sleeping friends and wandered through the tranquil forest. Checking her phone, she saw that Inko was calling. As she walked toward the ocean, she answered, greeting her mother and confirming that they would be on their way back to the group. After a brief conversation, Izumi tucked her phone away and navigated through the trees, finally reaching the huddle where Rin and Go were chatting. They needed to head to Class 1A, prompting Rin to sigh and rise from his spot. Izumi announced their departure, using her wings to carry Go, Yasano, Koyo, and Vanitas, while Rin grew his dragon wings and took to the air beside her. They made their way into the house, heading to their room. Yasano, Koyo, and Vanitas stirred awake, surprised to find themselves being carried. Izumi suggested they prepare for the day with a bath and some fresh clothes. As they left the house, their companions, Sloth, Starlight, Lie-Eyes, Brownie, Husk, Red, Cinder, Takshaka, and 𝐻𝗚𝐽𝐸, followed closely, acting as their protectors. They walked through the school, passing students and teachers until they arrived at Class 1. Inside, they found Aizawa, Present Mike, Midnight, Inko, Ryukyu, Hawks, the Big Three, Mirko, Night Eye, Endeavor, 𝐴𝐵𝐿ady, and Vlad King waiting for them. Izumi gently lowered her wings, allowing Go, Yasano, Koyo, and Vanitas to step down. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐿 emerged from Aizawa's scarf, expressing relief at their arrival. It explained that they were gathered to discuss some matters regarding the upcoming sports festival. However, Aizawa's announcement that Izumi and Rin would not be participating shocked them both. Izumi demanded to know why, looking to Aizawa and Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 for answers. Night Eye explained that their dinosaurs were the reason, and Izumi, feeling protective, summoned her daggers in a moment of frustration, narrowly missing Night Eye's head. The room fell silent, except for a few who remained unfazed. Mirio expressed his anger at Izumi's actions, but she stood her ground, asserting that her dinosaurs would not be used by anyone else. As 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Vanitas growled in agreement, the tension in the room escalated. Cinder and 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 joined in, growling at the window, while 𝐂𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 burst into the room, adding to the chaos. Izumi insisted that her dinosaurs only listen to her, Rin and their family, having saved them from peril. Her wings began to change color, causing some to back away, while Rin remained steadfast by her side. Endeavor dismissed her concerns, which only fueled Izumi's anger. She warned them that any attempts to take her dinosaurs would end their hero careers. With that, Izumi, Rin, Go, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and Vanitas moved toward the window, where Cinder and 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 allowed them to pass. 𝐂𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 followed as they exited 𝐸𝐴 and ventured into the streets, where citizens stepped aside or took pictures of the unusual procession. They made their way to the old house where Izumi had lived before moving to the forest, continuing onward until they reached an old building now overgrown with trees. The trio of Forest, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 raced around the familiar place, excited to be back after so long. Rin looked around, wondering what this place was. Izumi explained that it was where she had hidden Bronto, Forest, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, and Napoleon to train them while she was at school. As she surveyed the building, she noted that it needed cleaning. Suddenly, someone suggested cleaning it up. They turned to see Aizawa, Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, Hawks, Midnight, Present Mike, Tamaki, and Ryukyu standing behind them, holding cleaning supplies. Izumi smiled and nodded, realizing they would need more help. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 reassured them that the dinosaurs were outside, waiting for their orders. Confused, Izumi looked up to see Bronto and the other dinosaurs, except for the sea, ocean, and Pacific, ready to assist. They all got to work, with Go, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and Vanches cleaning the outside alongside Napoleon, Wheezy, Liz, Sloth, Brownie, Himura, and Starlight. The plant-eaters, except for Bronto and Cadence, munched on leaves, helping to tidy up the area, while Hawks used a mower to even out the grass. 𝐀𝐮𝐭, Ryukyu, and Midnight tackled the third and part of the second floor, while Aizawa, Rin, and Izumi worked on the remaining areas, cleaning until sunset turned into night. Izumi declared it was enough for the day and suggested they head home. Everyone agreed to ride on one dinosaur, while Ryukyu, Hawks, Rin, and Izumi took to the skies, heading back to the 𝐸𝐴 campus. As they flew through the streets, people stopped to watch them. Near the 𝐸𝐴 gates, they heard a strange cry. Izumi halted, signaling for everyone to stop, and looked toward a forest outside 𝐸𝐴 grounds. She stared intently before taking off with Hawks and Rin close behind, pursued by some meat-eaters. They arrived at an underground building with a glass window above, revealing dinosaurs submerged in strange liquid. Izumi felt a surge of anger as she noticed a man smirking and making a sinister remark about a dinosaur being ready to attack. Furious, she summoned a scythe. Rin and Hawks drew their weapons as they descended the stairs with the raptors, while the T-Rexes stayed behind to ensure the man didn't escape. They navigated through numerous rooms filled with different dinosaurs and tubs. Izumi's anger intensified as she spotted the man with a clipboard, grinning at the baby dinosaurs. Her wings darkened, and her halo glowed as she flew upward, cracking the glass beneath the man, causing him to fall through. She caught him mid-air and, filled with rage, flew back to where the T-Rexes were. She instructed Scar to hold the man while she freed the dinosaurs. Dropping the man to the ground, she hurried back to unlock the tubs, carefully placing each baby dinosaur on the ground in front of the T-Rexes and raptors. Ryukyu took one of the baby water dinosaurs back to the pond where ocean, sea, and Pacific were. Once they had rescued all the baby dinosaurs, they made their way to 𝐸𝐴 entering through the gates. Izumi directed the T-Rexes and Raptors to take the babies to the nest for rest. Scar accompanied Rin, Hawks, and Izumi to Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴's office. Izumi kicked the door open, and Rin held the man in a chokehold. The pro-heroes were taken aback by the sight. Ryukyu urged Rin to release the man, but he growled in response, tightening his grip. The recovery girl advised Izumi to intervene before the man lost consciousness. Izumi raised her hands, prompting Rin to let the man go but keep him pinned down. Inko approached, noticing Izumi's wings were still dark. Izumi explained that they had discovered the man experimenting on the dinosaurs. Aizawa acknowledged their capture of the man and assured them he would be locked up, patting Izumi on the head, which caused her wings to return to their normal state. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 instructed Rin and Izumi to go to bed, and they nodded before Izumi opened the window and flew out to the nest. Once inside their home, they changed into their sleepwear and headed to the nest, finding everyone peacefully asleep with the new baby dinosaurs. They settled into an empty space, drifting off while contemplating names for the dinosaurs they had saved. Izumi awoke to the sound of conversation in front of the nest. Slowly opening her eyes, she saw Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, Ryukyu, Inko, Tamaki, Aizawa, and Hawks discussing matters with Forest, Husk, and Blue observing. She glanced around the nest, confirming that everyone was still asleep. Rising from Rin's grip, she flew over to the adults and greeted them. They smiled back at her. Curious about the day's plans, Izumi asked what they would do. Aizawa informed her they were preparing for a month-long field trip. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 handed Izumi a card with unlimited funds, instructing her to buy supplies for the trip, with Ryukyu, Hawks, and Tamaki accompanying her. Izumi approached Rin and gently flapped her wings to wake him, tapping him on the head, but he remained asleep. Alder and Cloud then arrived, with Cloud dragging Rin out of the nest by his foot. Alder roared loudly in Rin's ear, causing him to spring up into a fighting stance, still half asleep. Izumi encouraged him to join her for a trip to the mall to gather clothes and supplies for their month away, but Rin, still confused, fell back asleep. Izumi sighed as she watched Cloud pick Rin up by the foot once more, ready to start their adventure. Izumi called out to her friends, Takshaka, Cranberry, Magma, Scar, and Mockingjay, as she took to the sky with Ryukyu in her dragon form. Hawks soared above, while Tamaki rode on Scar's back. They made their way to the mall, and as they passed, people moved aside to let them through. Rin stirred awake, startled by a different scream, and opened his eyes to find himself hanging upside down. He looked down to see Izumi shopping in a store and then up to see Cloud holding him by the foot. Tamaki, perched on Scar, noticed Rin was awake and waved at him. Rin waved back just as the door opened, revealing Hawks and Ryukyu, with Izumi carrying several shopping bags. Ryukyu smiled at Rin and asked him to help carry the bags. Cloud gently set Rin down, allowing him to join Izumi and take some bags from her. They continued exploring the mall, gathering supplies for their month-long camping trip. After collecting everything they needed, they headed back to 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴, where people again cleared the way for them. Upon arriving, they found the new dinosaurs awake and nuzzling Inko, Recovery Girl, Aizawa, and Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴. Izumi smiled at the sight until one of the baby dinosaurs dashed toward her, chirping happily. She giggled and picked up the little creature. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 pointed out the new dinosaur in Izumi's arms, named Aqua, along with the others: Titanic, Meteor, Koga, Necro, Flint, Quartz, Ursula, Pony, Muku, Lola, Terra, River, Kale, Butters, Leopard, and Chia. Izumi and Rin nodded in acknowledgement before entering the house, where they placed the bags down. They then returned outside to gather Go, Yasano, Koyo, and Vanitas without waking them, bringing them back inside with the baby dinosaurs following closely, except for Ursula. They laid the little ones on the bed, where they snuggled up next to Rin and Izumi. Afterward, they went back downstairs to grab the shopping bags and returned to their room. They unpacked the clothes, putting them in the closet alongside their other belongings, and pulled out 6 suitcases for their trip. As they organized the items they would need for the month, Izumi asked Rin if he had picked up the boys' things. He nodded, closing the boy's suitcase while Izumi added one last item before sealing it shut. Satisfied, they looked around the now tidy room. A knock at the door interrupted them, and Rin opened it to find Aizawa and Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 waiting. Aizawa informed them that the class was waiting on the bus. Izumi and Rin nodded, using Izumi's wings to lift the kids and baby dinosaurs gently. They took the suitcases and noticed 2 buses parked outside, which puzzled them. Rin inquired about the second bus, and Aizawa explained that Class 1B would be joining them. Just then, a Class 1B student called out from the bus, prompting Denki to exclaim that they were unaware of the situation. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed, and heavy footsteps approached. Class 1B screamed as 𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐿 and Redmane displayed their teeth. Izumi raised her hand, and the dinosaurs walked over to her, standing protectively behind Izumi, Aizawa, Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿, and Rin. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 warned the students that they had insulted the dinosaurs' parents and advised them to be respectful. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 emerged with the other dinosaurs, causing Class 1B to scream again at the sight of so many carnivorous creatures, hiding beneath seats and on the floor. Izumi took charge, leading the way to the Class 1A bus, where she gently placed the kids and baby dinosaurs down to let them sleep. She arranged them comfortably on the front seats before stepping off the bus to help Rin with their suitcase. Aizawa signaled that it was time to go, and they took to the sky, following the bus as they left 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿. When they arrived at their destination, the bus came to a stop, and everyone except the kids and baby dinosaurs peered out the windows. Aizawa texted Izumi and Rin, instructing them to get on top of the bus to observe while the class gathered. Bakugo expressed his frustration at being in the middle of nowhere. Before anyone could respond, a black car pulled up, and 4 individuals dressed in cat-themed outfits emerged. 𝐴𝐿𝐾 introduced them as the Wild Pussycats, explaining that they were there for a training camp, eliciting groans from the students. Muku exited the bus with Forest and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 on his back. Python picked up 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and handed her to Izumi, surprising the Wild Pussycats, who looked up at Rin and Izumi on top of the bus. One of the Pussycats insisted they come down, but Rin and Izumi remained where they were. Cloud and Raven approached, nuzzling them affectionately. Aizawa confirmed that they would stay up top, and the Pussycats nodded. Suddenly, one of the Pussycats slammed her paws on the ground, causing the mountain to shake and sending students tumbling down, accompanied by startled cries. Izumi handed 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 to Rin and then stood up, rushing to the front of the bus before stumbling. The wild cat attempted to reach her, but Scar growled protectively from behind. Izumi used her feathers to gently lift everyone by their shirts or breathes, guiding them safely to the ground, leaving the wild cat and 𝐿𝐿𝐾 astonished. Izumi instructed everyone to head east, retrieving her feathers before soaring back to where Rin and the others were. Everyone boarded the bus except for Rin, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and Izumi, who remained on top. Aizawa opened the bus window, allowing Izumi, Rin, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and Vanitas to join them. They settled on the roof of the bus, prepared for the journey ahead. As the bus began to move, the dinosaurs followed closely behind. They traveled until they reached the training camp just before Class 1A and Class 1B arrived. The bus came to a stop in front of the training camp, where Owl, Red, Zippo, Rex, and Volcano helped Izumi, Rin, 𝐀𝐮_𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Vanitas, and 𝐀𝐮 down gently. The pro-heroes disembarked and turned their attention to the group. Aizawa approached them, instructing them to protect the area. Rin and Izumi nodded, then set off to different locations to ensure everything was secure. The baby dinosaurs exited the bus and rushed to Izumi and Rin, chirping excitedly. Rin took out some meat, fish, and plants to feed the young ones, much to the surprise of the wild cat and 𝐿𝐿𝐾. Moments later, they heard groans from the forest and turned to see Class 1A and Class 1B emerging, bruised from their encounter with something in the woods. One of the Class 1B members exclaimed their relief at being alive, but their joy was cut short when Everest growled at them before walking away. One of the wild cats instructed everyone to wash up and eat, prompting everyone to rise and head to the hot tub, except for Izumi, Rin, and the kids, who remained to talk with Aizawa. Class 1A and Class 1B entered the hot tub to bathe, but Mineta attempted to sneak a peek on the girls' side using his quirk. He was quickly stopped by Rexy, Cranberry, Alder, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, 𝗚𝗚𝐿, Blue, and Poison, who growled at him. 𝐭𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 emerged from hiding and let out a loud roar at 𝗏𝗏𝐽𝐻𝐻, causing him to stumble back and fall onto Iida, who then toppled back into the hot springs. After their bath, they emerged to find Izumi and Rin peacefully sleeping in a sleeping bag with the kids, resting on magma, lava, and clouds while the other dinosaurs kept watch alongside Aizawa. The baby dinosaurs snuggled close, sleeping soundly. Everyone enjoyed their meal and went to bed, eager to avoid trouble. As the sun rose over the training camp, Class 1A, Class 1B, the Wildcats, and the pro heroes began to stir. Izumi awoke to the sounds around her and opened her eyes to see a member of Class 1B approaching. She inquired about their presence, fully awake now, and learned they were trying to wake her up. Rin, roused from his sleep, asked who had given them permission to do so. 𝗏𝗏𝐽𝐻𝐻 approached with her team, confirming they were the ones responsible. Rin explained that only Aizawa, Ryukyu, Hawks, and Principal 𝗏𝗏𝐽𝐻𝐻 had the authority to wake them, as they were strong enough to manage on their own. Izumi added that she was still figuring out her powers. Just then, Aizawa and Vault King emerged from the building. Aizawa questioned why they were awake, stating that only Izumi needed training. Rin pointed out that the Wildcats were the ones who had woken them. Aizawa turned to the Wildcats, asking why they had disturbed them. Tiger replied that they were preparing for training like everyone else. Aizawa, noticing Forest tugging at his sleeve, instructed Rin and Izumi to follow him. As they walked away, 𝗏𝗚𝐵 protested, but before Aizawa could respond, Scar, Cloud, Lava, Cinder, and Zippo stepped into her line of sight, growling menacingly. The Wildcats recoiled, wary of the dinosaurs. Aizawa instructed Scar, Cloud, Lava, Cinder, and Zippo to gather the others and join them. Cinder glanced at Izumi, receiving a nod before letting out a loud roar, prompting the other dinosaurs to follow suit. The Wildcats, Class 1B, Vault King, and Class 1A watched in shock as the dinosaurs ignored them, only responding to Aizawa, Rin, and Izumi. They ventured into the forest, leading the dinosaurs to an open area for Izumi's training. Aizawa encouraged Izumi to focus while Rin watched over the kids and dinosaurs. Over the next few days, Izumi and Aizawa trained diligently, and she discovered a variety of powers within her. One evening, as they wrapped up their training, Aizawa suggested they return to join the other classes. Upon their return, they found both classes engaged in conversation with the Wildcats and Vault King, leaving them puzzled. Aizawa asked what was happening, and Tiger welcomed them back, suggesting they join in the fun of scaring Class 1B. Before anyone could respond, blue flames erupted in the sky, prompting Bakugo to shout in alarm as a knife whizzed past him, leaving a cut on his cheek. Everyone turned to see a female villain and her accomplices emerging from the forest, the tension palpable. The female villain giggled, announcing that everyone had arrived, but the atmosphere shifted as 𝗏𝗏𝐽𝐻𝐻 panicked, realizing 𝗀𝗀𝐻𝐻 was missing. Her shout sent everyone into a frenzy, except for Rin and Izumi, who remained calm amidst the chaos. In the forest, Izumi commanded her dinosaurs, Takshaka, Cranberry, Hawks, Volcano, 𝗏𝗏𝐽𝐻𝐻, Everest, Poison, Magma, Lava, Mockingjay, Red, 𝗚𝗚𝐿, Blue, Sparks, and Trig, to find 𝗀𝗀𝐻𝐻. She instructed them to eliminate anyone who tried to stop them. Rin, glaring at the villains hiding in the trees, echoed the sentiment, urging them to take action. Vlad King protested, insisting they needed to capture the villains instead of harming them. Izumi, undeterred, requested the capture of a female villain and one with black hair and blue eyes. With a sharp whistle, Izumi sent her dinosaurs into the forest, swiftly dealing with the villains, sparing only Dabi and the female villains. The Wildcats were taken aback by Class 1B's presence. 𝗏𝗚𝐵 urged them to call the dinosaurs back, but Rin and Izumi ignored her. 𝗏𝗏𝐽𝐻𝐻 approached Izumi and slapped her across the face, leaving a red mark. The group was stunned, and Rin nearly retaliated when they heard roars approaching. The Raptors and Trig returned, carrying 𝗀𝗀𝐻𝐻 on Cranberry's back, who was crying. Upon seeing the mark on Izumi's face, Forest charged at 𝗏𝗏𝐽𝐻𝐻, growling, but Izumi called him back, and he complied. Cranberry approached Aizawa as 𝗀𝗀𝐻𝐻 dismounted. Before anyone could speak, the screams faded, and they turned to see two villains Izumi had requested being brought in. Rin thanked Raven and 𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐲, who gently placed the villains down. Aizawa cuffed their hands, stating they were coming with them, leaving the villains confused. Just then, Aizawa's phone rang. It was Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, who informed him about a villain attack at the training camp and requested that Izumi, Rin, Aizawa, the pups, and the two villains return to his office. Izumi quickly gathered her belongings, and Rin shouted for everyone to move out as police sirens approached. The group prepared to leave, with Aizawa, Rin, and Izumi flying ahead on their dinosaurs while the kids rode on 𝐿𝐿𝐷 and Toga were suspended upside down, carried by Redmane and Cloud. As they fled the training camp, Rin remarked on the importance of keeping their belongings packed for emergencies, a sentiment Izumi and Aizawa agreed with. After several hours, they reached you. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 awaited them at the gate alongside Ryukyu, Hawks, Recovery Girl, and 𝐴𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Izumi and Rin landed in front of them. 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 welcomed them back, and while he spoke with them, 𝐴𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Hawks, and Ryukyu took the kids to rest, leaving Redmane and Cloud to carry Toga and Dabi. Aizawa joined Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, Rin, and Izumi, commenting on the long journey home. They all proceeded to 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴's office to discuss the villain's actions, which stirred frustration among the group. Suddenly, 𝐴𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 burst in, dragging Endeavor by the ear, prompting laughter from everyone present. Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴 inquired about Endeavor's presence, to which he replied he was there to take Dabi back. 𝐴𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 firmly stated that would not happen, causing Endeavor to glare at her. Ryukyu intervened, explaining that 𝐴𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 intended to adopt Dabi and Toga, presenting evidence to support her case. Endeavor smirked, questioning what evidence she had. 𝐴𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 hinted that her daughter, Izumi, would back her up. Izumi declared her disdain for Endeavor, reminding him of his past actions toward his family and demanding he allow the adoption or face consequences. Endeavor, shaken, agreed to sign the papers. He approached Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴's desk and complied, stepping back afterward. 𝐴𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 then signed the documents, making the adoption official. She expressed her happiness about their new family and announced plans for shopping the next day. Everyone, except for a still timid Endeavor, nodded in agreement. As they left the office, Rin suggested they head home. Once inside they settled into their rooms, but Rin and Izumi ventured into the forest, prompting Dabi and Toga to follow them. They soon discovered a large nest surrounded by cuddling dinosaurs, a sight that filled them with wonder. The sun began to rise over Japan, signaling the start of a new day as everyone prepared for work or school. Izumi, Rin, Go, Yasano, Koyo, Vanitas, Dabi, and Toga were nestled together in a pile of dinosaurs, their warmth providing comfort as they slept. As the sunlight streamed in, Izumi was the first to awaken, noticing 𝐴𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Ryukyu, Aizawa, and Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴 approaching quietly. They observed the scene, chuckling softly at the sight of Go peacefully sleeping on Izumi's chest. Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴 informed them that a new dorm system was being established due to a recent attack by the League of Villains, who had attempted to kidnap a student from Class 1A and Class 1B. Izumi listened attentively as Aizawa explained that she and her small group would receive a house, while Dabi and Toga would join them in Class 1A. Rin, who had just woken up with Vanitas resting on his chest, nodded in agreement as Izumi relayed the news. Ryukyu reassured them that they would have 2 days off while arrangements were made with parents regarding the dorms, ensuring the students' safety and ease of access to school. With a sense of relief, Rin and Izumi bid farewell to their visitors as they prepared to leave the pile of sleeping friends. Carefully, they shifted Go and Vanitas to the side, managing to escape the cuddle pile without waking anyone. Once outside, they entered their house, with Rin holding the back door open for Izumi. In the living room, they found Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐴's black card and Izumi's laptop. As Izumi unlocked her laptop, she browsed mall stores to gather supplies for their new life. She selected some stylish clothes and hair dye for Toga, along with large gallons of BLD to ensure Toga's needs were met without harm to others. Rin then took his turn, purchasing clothes and essentials for Dabi. They discussed the design of their new dorm house, excitedly planning how to make it feel like home. Their preparations were interrupted by a knock at the door. Curious, they walked over to see who it was. Izumi peered through the peephole and spotted several pro-heroes waiting outside. She opened the door to reveal Mirko, Hawks, Night Eye, Fat Gum, 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐸, Kamui Woods, Rocklock, 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐸, and All Might. 𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐸 inquired if they were indeed Rin and Izumi, to which they confirmed their identities. All Might expressed the need to discuss something important, but Rin, feeling protective, growled softly, making the heroes exchange confused glances. Mirko, slightly irritated, demanded to know why they felt they couldn't speak. Before the situation escalated, Midnight and Present Mike rushed in, apologizing for the unexpected visit during their time off. Izumi greeted Midnight with a smile, assuring her it was all right. Just then, Dabi and Toga appeared at the door, carrying 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and Vanitas with a few dinosaurs trailing behind. All Might was about to voice his concern when a loud roar erupted from behind him, startling everyone. Rin raised his hands, signaling the dinosaurs to quiet down, while still maintaining a protective stance. Izumi reminded the pro-heroes, aside from Present Mike and Midnight, that the dinosaurs were under her protection and urged them to behave. Curious about the heroes' visit, Rin asked Present Mike for clarification. Present Mike explained that they were there to meet Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Aizawa regarding a mission to rescue a young girl named Eri, who was being exploited by Overhaul to create erasure bullets that rendered people quirkless. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Izumi nodded at Forest, who promptly dashed inside the house, calling for the raptors with a series of chirps and roars. The raptors responded with enthusiasm, gathering at the front door, ready for action. Izumi instructed Rin to stay put while she prepared to lead the raptors out of view, determined to assist in the mission ahead. Izumi and Rin roamed the streets in search of Eri, Overhaul, or one of his men. They changed into their hero suits in their bedroom and then walked to the front door, ready for action. Rin informed Dabi that he was in charge along with Onigiri, and that Toga would be receiving BLD at the house. With that, Rin transformed into a massive dragon, while Izumi flapped her wings and soared into the sky, followed closely by Hawks. The other pro-heroes left you to catch up with them. As Izumi and Rin searched for clues to Overhaul's lair, Cranberry raced up behind them, chirping excitedly. Izumi flew lower to the ground, eager to hear what Cranberry had discovered. Cranberry chirped and nodded, running in circles to indicate she had found something. Izumi flew back to Rin and shared the news that Cranberry had located the hideout or one of Overhaul's men. Rin responded with a powerful roar that echoed through the area, causing the ground to tremble. Aizawa, Ryukyu, Present Mike, Midnight, and Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐴𝐷𝐸 heard the roar, sensing that something significant was happening. Aizawa quickly informed Ms. and Mr. Bakugo that they needed to leave early. He wrapped Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐸 in his scarf and dashed out of the house toward the source of the roar. Inside, Dabi and Toga heard the commotion while 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and Vanitas slept in a pillow fort. Toga looked at Dabi, puzzled by the noise, but before he could respond, another roar resonated, accompanied by the sound of rushing footsteps. Dabi and Toga sprang into action, opening the front door to see a stampede of T-Rexes charging out of view toward the sound. Dabi remarked that they must be needed as Owl growled and joined the others. Midnight and Present Mike recognized Rin's roar as a signal that something important had been found. They began running toward the sound, joined by Cloud and Scar, who picked them up and continued on. People quickly moved aside as the raptors and T-Rexes rushed past. Rin ceased her roaring upon hearing various other roars and chirps, indicating that help was on the way. She and Izumi landed beside Cranberry, and Rin transformed back into her human form, standing next to Izumi and Cranberry. The ground shook with the approach of the raptors and T-Rexes, who gathered in front of them. Cloud and Scar carefully set Midnight and Present Mike down. Rin instructed everyone to look for a small girl once they broke into the hideout, emphasizing that they should incapacitate the villains without killing them. The raptors and T-Rexes responded with a mighty roar, ready for action. Izumi took to the skies, and Rin transformed back into a dragon, spotting Ryukyu flying toward them while carrying Aizawa and Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐸. Midnight and Present Mike retrieved Cloud and Scar, and Izumi signaled to Cranberry, who began to run. Everyone followed her as Rin and Izumi explained the situation. Ryukyu, Aizawa, and Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐻 understood the urgency and continued flying toward the base until Cranberry halted in front of a large, seemingly ordinary house. They all landed quietly, noticing two large villains standing guard. Ryukyu confirmed that this was the location, and Rin and Izumi nodded in agreement. They observed the villains for a moment before retreating, realizing there might be more threats inside. Aizawa suggested they gather the pro-heroes for the mission and led the group back to you to prepare for the next steps. Izumi and Rin discussed their plan with the other teachers, except for All Might, and they worked late into the night. As night fell, it was time for bed, but Izumi found herself restless, worrying about the little girl Overhaul was using for his experiments. Unable to sleep, she quietly left her room, where Rin was peacefully surrounded by Go, Yasano, Koyo, and Vanitas. She headed downstairs and found Aizawa awake. He acknowledged her sleeplessness without looking up. Izumi sat beside him in the living room, expressing her concern for the girl. Aizawa reassured her that they would ensure her safety. Despite his comforting words, Izumi still felt anxious. Aizawa informed her that the pro-heroes wanted her and Rin to stay out of the raid planned for the following day, which made her upset. Determined, Izumi insisted that Aizawa contact Principal 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐿, Hawks, Present Mike, Midnight, Ryukyu, Vault King, Snip, and some underground heroes. Aizawa complied and made the calls. Izumi returned to her room and gently shook Rin awake. After a few moments, he opened his eyes and saw her. She whispered that they needed to go downstairs to meet some trusted heroes. Rin nodded, carefully moving the children off him before standing up, and together they descended quietly. Upon reaching the living room, they found everyone Izumi had called, including Dabi and Toga, who were also awake. Izumi instructed everyone to listen carefully and stay quiet. She explained that the pro-heroes did not want her and Rin to participate in the raid, so they planned to conduct their own operation that night while everyone else was asleep. Dabi agreed to join them, while Toga would stay behind to watch the kids. Izumi instructed them to meet at the gates, assuring them that she and Rin would bring along some family members they had rescued and raised. With a nod of understanding, everyone dispersed to prepare for the mission. Izumi and Rin walked to the backyard, heading towards the large nest where the dinosaurs rested. Upon reaching the nest, they found all the raptors and T-Rexes waiting for them. Izumi smiled and encouraged the dinosaurs to stand up. She and Rin climbed onto Redmane and Owl, leading the group toward the gates. They approached the gates, allowing the trusted individuals to mount the dinosaurs before they quietly raced back to Overhaul's base. Once they arrived at the base, everyone dismounted and moved toward the hideout while the police helped clear the area of people and children, preparing for any potential chaos. After ensuring everyone was safe, Izumi whistled, signaling the T-Rex to charge in and create a distraction. The villains stirred awake but were swiftly dealt with before they could react. Rin urged everyone to move forward, and they followed him into the hideout, where the raptors darted ahead, taking down any villains that approached. As they pressed on, distant shouting caught their attention. Izumi mounted Forest while Rin took Alder, and they sped toward the source of the noise, where Overhaul was frantically searching for Eri. Confusion and anger surged within Izumi, prompting her to snap her fingers, sending the raptors to confront the villains. While she wished for Overhaul to be incapacitated, she stopped them before they could cause fatal harm, leaving him in agony as he realized he could not heal. Izumi spotted a gun and picked it up, recognizing it as the weapon that nullified quirks. A determined smile crossed her face as she shot Overhaul in the leg, causing him pain and confirming he could no longer use his abilities. She commanded him to find the little girl and bring her to her, then whistled for the raptors to track Eri down. Aizawa arrived on Blue, noting Overhaul's incapacitated state. Rin instructed them to take Overhaul to the police, and Blue chirped before sprinting off with him. Izumi, Rin, and Aizawa continued onward until Takashaka returned, carrying a frightened and crying little girl on his back. Izumi greeted Eri warmly, who looked up with wide eyes, seeking reassurance. Izumi confirmed that she was indeed taking Eri away, which made the girl cry and reach out for her. With a gentle smile, Izumi picked her up and embraced her, allowing Eri to cry on her shoulder. Rin approached, wrapping his arms around them from behind, placing a kiss on Izumi's neck and Eri's head as the little girl drifted off to sleep. Aizawa suggested they leave, and both Rin and Izumi nodded in agreement. As they exited the hideout, they noticed that the raptors and T-Rexes had dealt with the remaining villains, leaving only remnants behind. Izumi instructed everyone to keep quiet about the events, allowing others to discover the aftermath themselves. They agreed and began their journey home, with Izumi expressing her fatigue. As they traveled, Izumi fell asleep, her worries for Eri weighing heavily on her. Upon arriving at the 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐸 gates, they walked through just as the sun began to rise. Rin directed Raven to the nest, and the dinosaur let out a small roar as they made their way behind the house. Raven lowered himself, allowing Rin to dismount while carrying a sleepy Izumi, who cradled Eri in her arms. The T-Rexes and raptors settled into the nest, preparing for rest. Rin gently placed Izumi against Cinder and Zippo, ensuring she could sleep peacefully. He then instructed Dabi to head inside for the pro-hero meeting. Dabi nodded, and Rin transformed into his dragon form alongside his mother, allowing Aizawa, Midnight, and Present Mic to climb onto their backs as they flew toward the Night Eye Agency, where the pro-heroes were gathering. Rin and Ryukyu landed with a thud, drawing the attention of the pro-heroes who noticed their arrival. Aizawa, Midnight, and Present Mic dismounted, and Rin and Ryukyu shifted back into their human forms. The five of them entered the agency and made their way to the large meeting room filled with pro-heroes. Night Eye expressed relief at their arrival, stating they were finally ready to take down Overhaul and save a girl named Eri. While most nodded in agreement, Rin, Ryukyu, Aizawa, Midnight, and Present Mic remained silent. One of the pro-heroes questioned Rin's presence, expressing frustration at his being there. Ryukyu defended her son, but Rin placed a calming hand on her shoulder. Night Eye reiterated that no children were allowed at the meeting, which caused Rin's eyes to flash with anger. Just then, Rin's phone rang, interrupting the tension. He answered, worry evident in his expression as he spoke with Go. Go urgently informed Rin that something was wrong with Izumi and Eri, who were experiencing panic attacks. Rin stood up, alarmed, and asked for clarification. Go explained that they had found Izumi and Eri waking from nightmares, struggling to breathe. Aizawa took the phone from Rin, assuring Go they were on their way before returning it. Midnight urged everyone to move, and Rin nodded, racing out with Aizawa, Midnight, Present Mic, Hawks, and Ryukyu, despite Night Eye's calls for Aizawa to return. Rin transformed into his dragon form, allowing everyone to climb on as they sped toward 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐸, drawing the attention of onlookers who mistook him for Ryukyu. They arrived at 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐸 and rushed to the dinosaur nest, finding Izumi and Eri on the verge of unconsciousness. Rin quickly let everyone off before transforming into his human form and approaching them. He called out, letting them know he was there, placing his hands gently on their arms. Eri and Izumi turned to him, and Rin reassured them, instructing them to breathe in for 5 seconds and then out for 5 seconds, demonstrating the technique himself. As they followed his lead, their panic began to subside. Rin smiled, embracing those who returned the hug, though Eri flinched before settling into it. He suggested they head to the mall with the children, Aizawa, Present Mic, Dabi, Toga, Midnight, and Hawks to buy some things for Eri. Izumi nodded, though Eri looked confused. Rin directed Izumi to get the girls ready while he took care of the boys, mentioning that Dabi and Toga would join them. Izumi nodded hesitantly, and Rin smiled at Midnight for assistance. Midnight helped Izumi up carefully, and they all headed into the house with the girls following. Rin took the boys to another bathroom while Izumi and Midnight prepared the girls in theirs. After 20 minutes, everyone was ready and gathered in the living room. Izumi announced it was time to head out, and everyone agreed as they left the house, Toga and Dabi sporting new hair colors. Upon arriving at the mall, Eri's eyes widened in surprise as they entered and explored various stores. After purchasing several items, they returned home, happy to see Eri calm and cheerful, holding hands with Izuku and Midnight. As they arrived back at the house, they noticed the pro-heroes waiting for them. Izumi quietly suggested to Midnight that she take Eri to Hound Dog. Midnight nodded and led Eri away, leaving the others to approach the house. Night Eye confronted them angrily, demanding to know where they had been. Izumi explained they had been at the mall, glancing at the bags in her hands, which caused the pro-heroes to look down at their own bags. Fat Gum expressed his frustration, questioning why they would go to a raid. Izumi rolled her eyes, asserting her right to go wherever she pleased. Just then, All Might arrived, stating they didn't want her there but would take Eri with them. Before anyone could respond, Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐽 flew in on River, landing softly. He clarified that Eri was now a 𝐴 since Izumi had signed the adoption papers, pulling out the documents to show the pro-heroes. Izumi declared that Eri was hers now and instructed them to leave her house. As the pro-heroes departed from Izumi felt a sense of relief. Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐽 then mentioned an island that used to be an old Jurassic Park, suggesting they could create a park for their dinosaurs. Izumi happily agreed, seeing the potential for a new business venture. The next morning, they planned to visit the island. Once inside the house, they found Midnight with Eri and Forest sleeping on the sofa. They smiled and took pictures before Izumi announced her intention to work on Eri's room. Everyone nodded in agreement. Izumi gathered the bags and went upstairs to an empty room, where she spent the day organizing everything until she finally collapsed from exhaustion on the floor. Rin entered the room past Midnight, concerned about her absence at dinner. He found Izumi asleep on the floor, the room for Eri completed. Smiling, he picked her up and carried her to their room, placing her gently on the bed. He removed her shoes and tucked a blanket around her, allowing her to rest peacefully. The following morning, Izumi awoke to find herself in her and Rin's room instead of Eri's. She tried to move but noticed Rin sleeping beside her, his arms securely around her waist. Blushing, she attempted to escape his grip, but it was surprisingly strong. Despite her efforts, she couldn't break free. Rin slowly opened his eyes, noticing her struggle, and smirked. He playfully moved his hand under her shirt, teasingly biting her neck. Izumi gasped in surprise, feeling a mix of shock and excitement at his unexpected action. She tried to call out to him, but he continued, making her cover her mouth to stifle her sounds. Just then, a knock on the door interrupted them. Rin huffed, releasing Izumi and heading to the door while she hid under the covers, embarrassed by the marks on her neck. When Rin opened the door, he found his mother, Ryukyu, waiting. She asked to speak with Izumi, and Rin stepped aside, allowing her to enter before closing the door and leaving to tend to the dinosaurs. Ryukyu approached the bed, gently touching the covers where Izumi was hidden. She asked if they could talk, prompting Izumi to peek out from under the blanket, curious about the conversation. Ryukyu chuckled upon seeing the bite marks, and the moment became lighter as they prepared to discuss what was on her mind. Izumi looked at Ryukyu, curious about what she needed to discuss. Ryukyu explained that it was about Rin's upcoming heat, which would arrive soon. Noticing Izumi's confusion, Ryukyu elaborated on the concept of dragon heat. Izumi felt her cheeks flush and instinctively hid under the covers upon hearing this. Ryukyu reassured her, explaining that since she was Rin's mate, he would be searching for her when his heat began. Izumi peeked out from her hiding place, trying to comprehend the implications of Ryukyu's words. Ryukyu continued, indicating that Rin would not hold back this time. He would take her to his heat cave, and the experience would last about a week and a half. There was also the possibility of them having a child or a dragon egg. Ryukyu mentioned that she had spoken to Izumi's mother, Toga, and Dabi, and they had agreed to care for the children while Izumi was with Rin. Ryukyu assured her that Rin would make sure she would be unable to walk afterward. With a nod, Izumi acknowledged Ryukyu's words, who then smiled and patted her head before leaving the room. Rin entered shortly after, embracing Izumi. He informed her that Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐽 had said they needed to prepare for their trip to the island designated for their dinosaurs. Izumi nodded, and they began to get ready while Dabi and Toga organized the children who would accompany them. Once they were prepared, Izumi instructed the kids to stay close to her, Rin, Dabi, and Toga to ensure no one got lost on their way to the island. The children agreed, and as they stepped outside, they noticed a helicopter approaching. Rin looked up to see Izuku, Inko, Ryukyu, Hawks, and Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐿 waving from above. Toga remarked that they would be riding on Rin, and everyone concurred. Rin transformed into his dragon form, allowing everyone to climb aboard. Izumi instructed them to hold onto the spikes on his neck tightly. Once everyone was secure, Rin let out a powerful roar and took to the skies. Izumi flew to the front, near Rin's head, and confirmed they were ready for their adventure. As they soared through the air, they were joined by their flying dinosaurs: Python, Iris, Alder, Mockingjay, Strep, Husk, Griffin, and River. The children laughed and petted the dinosaurs as they flew alongside them. They passed over the town, where onlookers recorded the spectacle, and continued over the ocean, enjoying the view and the thrill of flight. Eventually, they arrived at an island featuring a dormant volcano. Izumi marveled at the sight, leading Rin and the dinosaurs as they navigated the rocky terrain. 𝗀𝗫 cautioned Rin against landing at the dock, and everyone agreed. Rin flew past the docks and landed safely on solid ground, allowing everyone to disembark. The helicopter landed nearby, and the group exited, including Inko, Ryukyu, Izuku, Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐿, and Hawks. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐿 explained that they were on the old island of Jurassic Park, and Izumi and Rin took in the ruins surrounding them. As they explored, they discovered remnants of habitats and structures that had once housed dinosaurs. Izumi picked up a moss-covered gun, noting that it seemed designed to contain various species. Suddenly, they heard roars echoing from the forest. Izumi approached the area, noticing it was blocked by electric wires. Izuku warned her not to enter, but Izumi insisted on cutting the wires to free any dinosaurs trapped inside. 𝗀𝗫 used his fire quirk to burn through the wires, and as they fell away, Izumi felt a sense of accomplishment. Just as they were about to rejoin the others, footsteps emerged from the forest, revealing dinosaurs that had been hidden away. Izuku was taken aback, realizing the dinosaurs had been there all along. The creatures approached Izumi, nuzzling her affectionately, and the children slowly joined in, laughing as they interacted with the friendly dinosaurs. Inko observed the scene, noting how gentle the dinosaurs were with the kids. Everyone agreed that they should create better habitats for the dinosaurs to live in. Izumi expressed her longing to remove everything except the doors to make improvements. Rin suggested they explore the island further first, and the group continued their journey, accompanied by their new dinosaur friends. As they wandered, Izumi noticed two habitats that piqued her curiosity, particularly because of the scars surrounding them. She flew into one of the habitats, discovering trees and other features within. Hawks, Rin, and Ryukyu flew to the location where Izumi was, noticing some blood splattered on the walls. It appeared that someone had been injured, possibly while trying to feed or calm a creature. Izumi scanned the area, sensing that something was off. They examined the scar marks, unaware that two large T-Rexes were watching them from behind. Feeling a presence behind her, Izumi turned to see the two T-Rexes sniffing her curiously. She remained still, allowing them to investigate her. When the others turned around and saw the massive dinosaurs, Ryukyu exclaimed in shock. Izumi remarked that they had found the source of the scars. Inko called out from the other side, asking what was happening. Ryukyu decided to explain the situation and transformed into her dragon form, flying to the other side of the cage. The T-Rexes ceased their sniffing and focused on Ryukyu. Izumi reassured the dinosaurs that they would get them out and fed, but they needed to gather supplies first. The T-Rexes roared in agreement, and Izumi petted their heads before they all took to the sky as the sun began to set. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐿 suggested it was time to return, and everyone agreed. The adults boarded the helicopter while Rin transformed into his dragon form, allowing the children, 𝗀𝗫, and Toga to climb on. The flying dinosaurs that accompanied them soared in the air as they took off. As they flew back to 𝗀𝗫, Izumi expressed the need for two large boats, one for her children and the other for supplies, including food for the dinosaurs. Principal 𝐻𝐻𝐿 agreed and mentioned he had contacts who could assist, but he needed guidance on where to place everything. Izumi gave a thumbs up as they discussed the island's layout and resources. After a few hours of flying, they finally arrived home. Rin touched down, letting everyone off before they headed inside. Ryan went straight to bed in his clothes, not caring at all. Rin and Izumi cuddled as they settled down for the night, with Rin nuzzling her neck happily while Izumi sighed and drifted off to sleep. The flying dinosaurs returned to their nest to rest, and the adults retired to their rooms, preparing for the next day. As dawn broke over Japan, everyone began to wake and start their day. Izumi slowly opened her eyes, yawning and rubbing them, noticing that Rin was unusually warm. Concerned, she got up, gathered clothes for both of them, and packed them into a large backpack. After preparing, she headed to the bathroom for a bath while Rin continued to struggle with his rising temperature. Once she was ready, Izumi left the bathroom and went downstairs, where she found Ryukyu and Inko chatting while cooking breakfast. She joined them at the table, and they enjoyed their meal until Rin entered the kitchen, growling playfully as he picked Izumi up and carried her outside. Inko and Ryukyu laughed at the unexpected display, while Izumi was taken by surprise. Rin transformed into his dragon form and flew to his secret spot, holding Izumi tightly as they soared through the air. As they flew, Izumi noticed the world rushing past them, and she could feel Rin's body growing hotter and more intense. Just as she was about to speak, Rin dove swiftly into a massive cave. He landed with a thud, walking deeper inside, fire escaping his mouth as he ventured further. Izumi was amazed to see the cave filled with gold, rubies, emeralds, and diamonds, with a bed situated in the center. Rin gently set her down and transformed back into his human form. He playfully tossed the backpack aside, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Izumi was captivated by the treasure surrounding them, but she felt a rush of energy as Rin's demeanor shifted. He approached her with a fierce intensity, and she could sense the thrill of adventure in the air. Rin's playful growl echoed in the cave as he expressed his feelings, and Izumi felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. As they explored the cave together, the bond between them deepened, and they shared a moment of connection amidst the glittering treasures. The cave, once a hidden secret, became a place of discovery and adventure for both of them, solidifying their partnership and the journey ahead. Izumi stirred restlessly as she felt Rin's grip tighten around her. He gently guided her down, urging her to stay still. Rin's determination was palpable as he focused on their connection, and Izumi's breath quickened in response. He playfully teased her, causing her to gasp in surprise. Izumi's eyes widened as she surrendered to the moment, feeling overwhelmed by the intensity of their bond. Rin's playful nature shone through as he continued to engage with her, their shared energy building. Meanwhile, Inko and Ryukyu were on the floor, laughing heartily as Dabi, Tuya, and Toga descended the stairs, looking puzzled. Vanches inquired about their parents' whereabouts, glancing at the two women. Inko explained that Rin had taken Izumi somewhere, and they wouldn't return for a week or two. Everyone, except Ryukyu, nodded in understanding as they prepared breakfast. Ryukyu headed to work while Inko stayed behind with the kids. At her office, Ryukyu was greeted by her colleagues, including Hawks, Mirko, Fat Gum, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Endeavor, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Best Jeanist, 𝐸𝐿ady, and Rocklock. Ryukyu's cheeks were still flushed from laughter, drawing curious glances from her friends. Mirko asked about her rosy complexion, and Ryukyu chuckled as she recounted a humorous incident involving her son and Izumi. She explained how Izumi had come into the kitchen while she and Inko were cooking, only for Rin to burst in, shirtless and growling playfully at Izumi before whisking her away over his shoulder. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 chimed in, confirming that he recognized Izumi as the girl associated with dinosaurs. Endeavor made a dismissive comment, prompting Ryukyu to defend Izumi passionately. She emphasized Izumi's bravery and the sacrifices she made to protect others, reminding everyone of the challenges she faced. Ryukyu's voice grew serious as she recounted Izumi's past struggles, including her journey from being quirkless to awakening her powers during a harrowing mission. She shared the scars Izumi bore from years of hardship and the lack of support she received. The room fell silent as her words resonated with her colleagues, who reflected on their own perceptions of Izumi. Ryukyu urged them to treat Izumi with the respect she deserved, highlighting her resilience and the positive impact she had on those around her. With a determined huff, she left her agency to patrol the area. A week and a half had passed since Rin's bonding time with Izumi in his cave, filled with treasures. Concern lingered among their friends and classmates, but 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Ryukyu, Toga, 𝗏𝗏, and the kids remained at ease. Class 1A was anxious, having not seen Rin or Izumi for days. Izumi awoke, drenched in sweat, her body aching from the previous days. She lay still in Rin's embrace, waiting for him to wake. Moments later, Rin tightened his hold, pulling her closer as he opened his eyes. He kissed her neck gently before moving away, causing Izumi to gasp in surprise. Rin checked on her, asking if she was all right. Izumi admitted her body was sore, and Rin nodded as he got out of bed to retrieve her clothes. He helped her stand, noticing her legs were still shaky. With care, he assisted her in getting dressed, ensuring she was comfortable. Once they were both dressed, Rin transformed into his dragon form, carefully lifting Izumi and her bag before they exited the cave. As they soared through the skies towards you, Izumi marveled at the scenery, her legs still trembling slightly from their previous adventures. Rin let out a powerful roar upon reaching the school, unaware that everyone was busy with their classes. Class 1A was an English class with present mic when Rin let out a roar. Everyone jumped out of their seats, prepared to confront a potential threat, until present mic approached the window and saw that Rin and Izumi had returned. He reassured the class, stating that it was not a villain. Ryukyu landed gracefully next to Rin, accompanied by 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Present mic informed the class that he needed to step out for a moment and exited the room. Rin glanced at Ryukyu before gently placing Izumi down. Izumi sat on the ground, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 hurried over to check on her, noticing bite marks and bruises. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 chuckled, while Izumi turned away, her cheeks flushed. Ryukyu laughed as she transformed back into her human form, commenting on Izumi's condition. Izumi protested, feeling embarrassed and unable to walk properly. As Ryukyu and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 shared a laugh, several figures approached. Principal 𝐬𝐻𝐿, Endeavor, All Might, Night Eye, Mirko, Hawks, the teachers, 𝗏𝗏, Toga, and the children. Go ran up to Izumi, giving her a big hug, and despite her discomfort, she managed to smile. Aizawa, holding a cup of coffee, expressed relief that Izumi and Rin had returned safely. Rin thanked Aizawa, prompting a smirk from him. Midnight joined the group, noticing Izumi's state and bursting into laughter. Izumi, still blushing, attempted to hide her face in the hair of one of the kids. Rin carefully picked her up, with Ysano still in her arms, as the adults laughed at Ysano's confusion. Rin announced it was time to go home, leading the children with the adults following behind, some still puzzled by the situation. Once they arrived home, Rin and Izumi settled into their room, cuddling while watching movies throughout the day. Izumi rested, her body still trembling from earlier. 𝗏𝗏 and Toga joined them with snacks and ice cream, and they all enjoyed a movie marathon. Ryukyu and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 checked on them before attending a meeting with the pro heroes and teachers. Aizawa, Midnight, and present mic later returned to share what had happened during their absence and the homework that needed to be completed. Rin and Izumi were grateful for the understanding shown by their teachers. Principal 𝐬𝐻𝐿 sent Izumi a message, informing her that the workers had cleaned up the area around the Jurassic Park, ensuring no buildings or wires remained. The dinosaurs were still alive, having come out of hiding but now resting in the forest. Izumi shared the message with Rin, 𝗏𝗏, and Toga, giving a thumbs up in response before setting her phone down. Rin hugged Izumi from behind, pulling her closer as they continued watching movies with their new siblings, Toga and 𝗏𝗏, whom 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had adopted. As the day wore on, the children were the first to fall asleep, followed by Izumi and Rin. Toga and 𝗏𝗏 eventually dozed off on the floor, surrounded by snacks. Ryukyu and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 returned at midnight, discussing a villain they had yet to catch. Upon opening the door, they found everyone peacefully asleep. Rin held Izumi close, while the kids cuddled around them, and Toga and 𝗏𝗏 sprawled out on the floor. A week and a half passed since Rin had his mating season with Izumi in his cave filled with treasures. While most were worried about their absence, Principal 𝐬𝐻𝐸, Midnight, Present Mic, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Ryukyu, Toga, Dabi, and the kids remained unconcerned. Class 1A was anxious, having not seen Rin or Izumi for some time. Izumi awoke, drenched in sweat, her body aching and unable to move due to lingering fatigue. She lay still in Rin's arms until he finally stirred. Rin tightened his embrace, pulling her closer as he opened his eyes. After yawning, he kissed her neck before carefully moving away. Izumi's eyes widened as she felt a rush of sensations. Rin asked if she was okay, and she replied that her body was sore. He nodded and got off the bed to retrieve her clothes from her backpack. As he helped her stand, he noticed her legs were still shaky. He gently reassured her as he assisted her in getting dressed, taking care to be as gentle as possible. Once they were both dressed, Rin transformed into his dragon form and carefully lifted Izumi along with the backpack, flying out of the cave. Izumi watched the scenery pass by as they soared toward the grounds. Upon arriving, Rin let out a loud roar, unaware that everyone was in class. Class 1A reacted to the roar, readying themselves for action until Present Mic confirmed that it was Rin and Izumi returning. "Calm down, it's not a villain," Present Mic reassured as Ryukyu landed next to Rin and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. He opened the door and quickly left the classroom, mentioning that he had a brief errand to run. Rin glanced at Ryukyu before carefully setting Izumi down. Izumi sat on the ground, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 approached her, noticing the bite marks and bruises. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 chuckled while Izumi looked away, her cheeks flushed. Ryukyu laughed, commenting on the situation as she transformed back into her human form. Izumi, feeling embarrassed, protested that she couldn't walk properly. Ryukyu and 𝐀𝐮𝐭o̗t𝐨𝐫 exchanged amused glances, and soon, several figures approached. Principal 𝐬𝐻𝐸, Endeavor, All Might, Night Eye, Mirko, Hawks, the teachers, Dabi, Toga, and the children. Go rushed over with the other kids, enveloping Izumi in a warm hug. Despite her discomfort, Izumi masked her pain. Izawa, holding a cup of coffee, expressed his relief that Izumi and Rin were back. Rin thanked him, prompting a sigh and a smirk from Izawa. Midnight joined the scene, laughing at Izumi's state, which only made Izumi more flustered as she hid her face in one of the children's hair. Rin gently picked Izumi up, with Yasano still in her arms, while the adults shared a laugh at Yasano's confusion. "All right, let's head home," Rin announced, leading the kids away. The pro-heroes, except for Ryukyu, and the teachers, including Principal 𝐬𝐻𝐸, Izawa, Midnight, 𝐀𝐮𝐭o̡t𝐨𝐫, and Present Mic, followed, though some were still puzzled by the situation. Eventually, Rin, the kids, and Izumi arrived home. They settled into Rin and Izumi's room, cuddling while watching movies throughout the day, with Izumi resting despite her trembling body. Dabi and Toga arrived with snacks and ice cream, joining in on the movie marathon. Ryukyu and 𝐀𝐮𝐭o̡t𝐨𝐫 checked on them before heading off to a meeting with the pro-heroes and teachers. Izawa, Midnight, and Present Mic later returned to inform them about missed assignments and homework. Rin and Izumi were grateful for the understanding, as Principal 𝐬𝐻𝐸 texted Izumi about the cleanup at Jurassic Park. The area was clear of debris, and while some dinosaurs remained hidden, they were safe in their caves. Izumi shared the message with Rin, Dabi, and Toga, giving a thumbs up in response. As they watched movies together, Rin hugged Izumi from behind, pulling her closer as they enjoyed the time with their new siblings, Toga and Dabi, whom 𝐀𝐮𝐭o̡t𝐨𝐫 had adopted. The kids were the first to doze off, followed by Izumi and Rin, while Toga and Dabi eventually fell asleep on the floor, surrounded by snacks. When Ryukyu and 𝐀𝐮𝐭o̡t𝐨𝐫 returned at midnight, they found everyone peacefully asleep. Rin held Izumi close, while the kids cuddled around them, and Toga and Dabi sprawled out, oblivious to the mess around them. 𝐀𝐮𝐭o̡t𝐨𝐫 and Ryukyu quietly tidied up before heading to their own room for the night. Izumi needed a few days to recover, and while everyone understood, the children were eager to help, leading to some confusion among their classmates. Izumi rested on Rin's lap during present mixed class. Izawa entered and announced a change of plans. The class would be going on a week-long field trip. He reassured them that Izumi and Rin didn't need to worry about packing, as their mother had taken care of it. Rin, still holding Izumi, looked puzzled but nodded in agreement. The class quickly gathered their belongings, and Rin learned that their videos about training dinosaurs had caught the attention of some people who wanted to meet them. As Rin and 𝐬𝐬𝐴 made their way to the bus, they arrived to find all the dinosaurs waiting. Rin asked how they would travel, and 𝐬𝐴𝐴 explained that they would be transported on a boat, arriving before the group. Rin agreed to accompany them. Once their classmates arrived with their suitcases, 𝐬𝐴𝐴 instructed everyone to load them onto the bus. Rin climbed onto Owl's back, still cradling a sleepy Izumi. As the bus began to move, the dinosaurs followed closely behind. 𝐬𝐴𝐴 directed them to the port where the ship awaited. Rin spotted the boat and confirmed its location, prompting Owl to lead the way. Upon reaching the ship, the captain greeted Rin, who introduced himself while still holding Izumi. The captain confirmed he was there for them, and Rin expressed relief at finding him. The captain guided Rin to the area designated for the dinosaurs, just as Izumi began to stir in his arms. Izumi looked around and realized they were at the port, feeling a surge of curiosity about the situation. She noticed her children, the dinosaurs, boarding a large ship. She turned to the captain and Rin for answers. Rin explained that they were going on a field trip to a different island since some people had seen their dinosaurs and admired how Izumi treated them like family. Izumi nodded in understanding and expressed her eagerness to get going. The captain agreed, leading them onto the ship, where he showed Izumi where her children would be, assuring her they could come down anytime. Izumi gently tapped Rin's arm to be let down, and once on the ground, she walked over to the raptor's pen. The captain and his crew watched in amazement as Izumi interacted with the dinosaurs. She petted their heads and leaned against 𝐬𝐿 and 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, while the other raptors nestled around her. The crew was astonished that the dinosaurs were calm and affectionate rather than aggressive. As the ship prepared to set sail for 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲, the crew packed plenty of food for the journey. The ship moved swiftly across the water, comparable to a car speeding at 80 miles per hour, while 𝐬𝐴𝐴 and the class traveled by plane. Rin approached the T-Rexes, lying down with Rex and petting the others as they gathered around him. Unbeknownst to them, Ryukyu, Mirko, Hawks, Endeavor, and Inko were above the ship, accompanying them to ensure everyone's safety. Ryukyu and Inko descended to the ship and found Izumi with the raptors and Rin with the T-Rexes, all comfortably settled. Inko remarked on how cozy they looked, surprising Izumi and Rin with their presence. Izumi asked her mother why they were there, and Ryukyu explained that Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had sent them along with Mirko, Endeavor, and Hawks due to potential dangers they might encounter. Izumi groaned at the mention of Endeavor, while Rin expressed his displeasure with a growl. Inko chuckled, noting that the two were reacting to someone they didn't like. Endeavor, Mirko, and Hawks soon joined them, and Endeavor greeted Ryukyu with a grumpy expression. Rin and Izumi sighed at his arrival. Izumi decided to spread her wings, and Rin, along with the other dinosaurs, followed her to the top deck to take flight. The captain and crew observed their transformation and allowed them to soar through the sky for several hours until nightfall. As darkness fell, they returned to the ship, snuggling with the dinosaurs while Inko and Ryukyu finished discussing matters with the captain. They all drifted off to sleep, with Ryukyu joining the huddle, keeping them warm alongside the raptors and T-Rexes. The next morning, the sun rose over the water as the boat approached the island. The captain went below deck and saw Rin, Ryukyu, Inko, and Izumi still asleep. He approached Ryukyu to inform her that they had arrived at 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 and that the person they were supposed to meet was waiting at the docks. Ryukyu slowly opened her eyes and nodded, preparing to wake everyone. She gently roused them, explaining that they had reached the island and that the park's leader was waiting outside. Rin and Izumi groaned as they sat up, and Inko rubbed her eyes before getting up. They followed Ryukyu to the port, where Izumi asked if they had left their other dinosaurs at home. Inko reassured her that 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Dabi, and Principal 𝐀𝐮𝐻𝐿 were taking care of them. As they approached the docks, they spotted a woman waiting for them. The captain introduced her as Claire Deering, the creator of Jurassic Park, and the man accompanying her as Owen Grady, who trained raptors. Claire greeted Izumi, confirming her identity and expressing pleasure at meeting them. She mentioned that 𝐬𝐴𝐴 had informed them of their arrival. Claire invited them to follow her to a large area where the dinosaurs could roam freely. However, Izumi hesitated, questioning whether it was a cage. Claire began to explain but was interrupted by Izumi, who firmly stated that she did not put her dinosaurs in cages. Owen reacted with frustration, insisting it was for the safety of the park's visitors. Izumi stood her ground, emphasizing that her dinosaurs behaved well in her presence. Seeing the tension, Claire quickly suggested an open plain where the dinosaurs could roam freely, hoping to defuse the situation. Izumi agreed, relieved, and they followed Claire to the designated area. They followed as they walked past visitors who looked shocked and scared, but Izumi's dinosaurs stayed close to her, following her the entire time. Claire and Owen noticed that the dinosaurs weren't leaving Izumi or Rin's side as they finally reached the plains. Owen expressed his frustration, but Izumi and her group ignored him. Izumi thanked them and entered the plains with her dinosaurs trailing behind. Rin followed closely as Mockingjay, Python, Streps, Iris, Alder, Husk, River, and Meteor soared through the sky around the plains while Izumi began to fly with them. Claire and Owen watched in astonishment as the dinosaurs huddled together, and Izumi landed next to Rin. Claire asked if they wanted to meet their dinosaurs, and they nodded in agreement. Izumi called for Forest, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and 𝐻𝐮𝐻𝐿, who stood up and approached. Owen and Claire exchanged glances, wanting to say something but ultimately deciding against it. Claire then asked if they wanted to see the T-Rexes, and Izumi nodded as 𝐻𝐻𝐿 carried her with her group. As they left the plains, people moved aside, seeing Gwen and Owen leading the way while 𝐻𝐻𝐿 carried the group, with 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Forest in front, keeping watch. They walked for a few minutes until they arrived at the T-Rex enclosures, which were surrounded by large cages. Izumi felt uneasy and flew over the gate. Claire and Gwen called out for her to return, but Izumi landed on the other side. The staff at the station noticed the red warning signs and looked at the board, realizing Izumi was inside one of the T-Rex cages. They called for help to get her out, but before anyone could react, a powerful roar echoed from within. Claire and Gwen turned pale as they rushed to the viewing area, where Izumi's group had gathered. Hawks and Rin flew over the cage and landed next to Izumi, both looking worried. The T-Rex emerged from the forest, growling at Izumi, Hawks, and Rin, but they remained still. The T-Rex approached, bending down to sniff Izumi, who stayed calm and looked at it. The T-Rex lay down, and Izumi gently petted its nose, shocking everyone in the station, including Claire and Gwen. Izumi smiled as Forest, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and 𝐻𝐻𝐿 let out roars and chirps, curious about what was happening. Izumi reassured them that she was fine. Owen, astonished, wondered how she could pet such a dangerous dinosaur. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 explained that Izumi had a calming aura and was kind, but warned that anyone who harmed her family would face dire consequences. Claire pressed a button and asked Izumi if she wanted to see the raptors. Izumi nodded in response. Owen led the way as they exited the enclosure. Izumi looked back at the T-Rex, promising to return the next day. Rin, Hawks, and Izumi flew out of the cage and landed on 𝐻𝐻𝐿's back, who sat up with Forest and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. They made their way to the raptor's enclosure, following Owen and Claire as her nephews arrived. Gray greeted them excitedly, with Zack running toward them. Claire and Owen smiled and opened their arms as the boys rushed into their embrace. Owen asked if they were having fun, and the boys nodded, noticing the large T-Rex and two raptors behind them, which startled them. Izumi suddenly heard a scream and flew toward the sound, with Forest and 𝐻𝐻𝐿 lifting her group while 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 dashed after her. They reached the raptor enclosure, where Izumi dove in between two children and a man, facing 5 raptors. Forest and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 jumped in beside her, growling protectively. Claire, Owen, Zack, and Gray arrived just in time to see the man covering the children's eyes. Owen rushed to the gates of the enclosure and opened them slightly, urging everyone to hurry out. The 2 children and the man escaped with Forest and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 guarding them as the gates closed. The raptors glared at Izumi, frustrated that their prey had escaped. The 5 raptors surrounded Izumi, ready to confront her, until 𝐻𝐻𝐿 let out a powerful roar, causing the raptors to retreat into the forest. Izumi sighed as 𝐻𝐻𝐿's tail wrapped around her gently, lifting her and placing her back with her group, where Ryukyu and Izumi checked on her. Owen expressed his concern, reminding her of the danger she had put herself in. Izumi replied that it wasn't dangerous for her and suggested that if he wanted to understand, he should watch more of her videos. They left the raptor enclosure and continued exploring the other enclosures and labs. Izumi felt uneasy in the lab and stayed away from it with Rin, who noticed her discomfort. They explored until nightfall, at which point Izumi's group returned to the plains where her dinosaurs were settled in for the night.